billion rand debt relief package and a sharp drop in diesel costs. The power utility also reporting that a nearly 24 billion rand pre-tax profit for the year ended March. Higher tariffs also featured in that equation, which is the difficult part for you and I to grapple with. While we congratulate them for making a profit, we have to deal with issues such as higher tariffs. So higher tariffs and improved sales volumes lifted revenue by 45 billion rand, while finance costs fell as borrowings decreased. But despite the turnaround, Eskom's debt remains at about 372 billion rand, what it owes to other people. And auditors have again flagged serious concerns about its long-term sustainability, not to mention the debt that municipalities owe Eskom, which is now well over 100 billion rand. So we will be talking to Caleb Kasim, who is Eskom's chief financial officer, at about 7:20 to go over the numbers once again and just get a full understanding of the power utilities books. So that's coming up at about 7:20. He didn't quite shoot to kill, as he likes to chant, but Julius Malema did fire shots with a real firearm unlawfully, according to the East London Magistrates Court. EFF leader Julius Malema has been found guilty on 5 firearms-related charges, including unlawful possession of a firearm and ammunition and discharging a firearm in public. Delivering judgment in the East London Magistrates Court, Magistrate Toinette Olivier ruled that the state had proved its case beyond reasonable doubt, rejecting Malema's claim that the weapon was a toy gun loaded with blanks. The charges stem from the 2018 EFF rally in Mdantsane, where Malema was seen firing shots into the air during the party's 5th birthday celebrations. So we will go over the judgment. It was a lengthy judgment. It went on for 3 days. For the first 2 days, the magistrate just recapping all the evidence and cross-examination that had happened in the court, and then eventually getting to the point of evaluating it all yesterday. So we will then go over everything with Elton Hart, who is a legal analyst. He will join me at about 7:45 this morning to just unpack what the factors were that weighed against Mr. Malema in that case, as well as his vow to challenge it and go and take it on appeal. So that's coming up at about 7:45 this morning. Going nowhere slowly. If you are of a particular age, I imagine right now that those words alone evoke a certain soundtrack to a very popular show that used to be on SABC2, I believe it was. Going nowhere slowly may just be the reality that awaits Gauteng residents over the next few years. If you think traffic in the province's roads is bad right now, brace yourself, because it could get a whole lot worse. The Gautrain Management Agency CEO, Tshepo Khobe, says congestion on our roads is set to jump by more than 122% by 2050, with cars crawling at low speeds and traffic spilling from the highways into the suburbs. With more than 300,000 extra vehicles expected in the next 3 years alone in Gauteng, the province says it's fast-tracking an updated 25-year transport master plan. But what does that look like? And how soon can it be rolled out to avert this reality that awaits us by 2050, which Tshepo Khobe is pointing to? The population is growing steadily, and so are the infrastructure, particularly road infrastructure needs, with over 120 billion rand earmarked for spending on expanding the Gautrain. How fast can those plans come alive to avert this gridlock that seems to be looming on the province of Gauteng? My guest at 8:10 is Tshepo Khobe, who is the Gautrain Management Agency CEO, and he will talk to me about all of those realities that were outlined at the Mobility Summit that took place in Sandton yesterday. Media brief. Morning brief team, to your stations please for the takeoff this morning. Ann Musa at the news desk, Rob Byrne on your traffic. Zaikan is watching All Things Sport, Melissa Puta with the morning brief in brief. Dowling Lichela, as always, will have insights for you into the economy, business and the markets, and Sipho Mantula with the Africa update at about 20 to 7. Let's have a conversation throughout the 3 hours. Weigh in on these and other issues that we will raise during the show and any other issues that you want to bring onto the agenda. You can do that by calling me on 086 000 2032, or you can send me a WhatsApp voice note and even a WhatsApp message, a straight up WhatsApp message on 0614 104 107. All right, we've started it, we've revved it a few times, it's idled nicely. Let's put it in gear and get going on this Thursday.
SAFM's award-winning drama department presents to you the radio drama series Skyline.
Press to cockpit, medical emergency now.
Cabin crew to your stations.
Where the skies promise adventure, but behind the cabin doors, untold secrets are found.
He's signing off on cheap parts they installed like it's nothing.
Catch the radio drama series every Saturday at 9 p.m. on SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Big stories of the day. Hashtag the morning brief.
All right, let's start with Melissa Puta's morning brief in brief. Good morning to you, Melissa. Let's start with what the Minister of Justice, Mamoloko Gubai, has reported in as far as progress on State Capture Commission-related cases.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Justice and Constitutional Development Minister Mamoloko Kubai reported that there is progress being made on State Capture Commission-related court cases with billions already recovered. High-profile cases involve entities like Transnet, Eskom, Denal, and Bosasa. Currently, 11 cases involving 23 government officials and one politician are before the courts, with many trials set for this year and 2026. The investigating directorate against corruption is also probing 9 additional major cases involving 20 officials and 4 politicians. The asset forfeiture unit has secured significant restraint orders, including one exceeding R1 billion in Transnet matter. So it will be we will watch closely to see more cases and how they're being handled in the near future.
And there seems to be no end in sight to the measles outbreak in the country.
Yes, so the NICD has reported a continued rise in measles cases across South Africa, with over 1,000 confirmed cases by the 20th of September. Gauteng leads with 610 cases, with Tshwane leading with 310 cases. Johannesburg 144 and Ekurhuleni 132. Limpopo follows with 155 cases, mainly in the Vembe district, where children aged between 1 and 14 make up 77.4% of the cases. Mpumalanga is in the third place, reported at 82 cases, mostly in Kangala, the Free State 140, and the Western Cape 51. The NICD has urged increased vaccination, especially catch-up doses for children who missed the routine immunizations. It calls for strengthened surveillance, targeted immunization campaigns, and public awareness to combat vaccine hesitancy and curb the outbreak. So it is quite a sad thing with the measles, and it's a fight that they are struggling with, but continue.
Yeah. Lastly, Melissa, a caller yesterday on the show asking us, why do you guys always talk around President Cyril Ramaphosa? Why doesn't he come and give account as the country's chief executive officer? You guys are skirting around the issues. You never directly talk to him. And I made the point that it's not for a lack of trying. Now SANEF is weighing in on that.
Yes, so to mark World News Day on the 28th of September, SANEF has launched the appointment with the President campaign, urging President Cyril Ramaphosa to engage in open dialogue with South African journalists. This is a meeting said to be overdue since 2020 and 2021. SANEF criticizes the president's ongoing silence amid a national crisis and missed opportunities to communicate his vision despite South Africa preparing to host the G20 summit in 2025. The campaign calls for regular transparency transparent engagement between the president and the media to uphold democracy and inform the public. Sanes emphasizes that leadership must start at home, and journalists are standing by ready to offer a platform for honest national conversation. This initiative also aligns with the International Day for Universal Access to Information, reinforcing the public's right to be informed and the press's role to ensuring government accountability. So we do hope that this call will eventually make the president, want to speak to the media or something, but we will have to wait and see how it unfolds.
And the thing about it is that he actually did give an undertaking at that last gathering that was undertaken a couple of years ago. He did say that I will make myself more available, but that has not happened since that gathering. All right, thank you for that. That's Melissa Puta with the Morning Brief in brief.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
19 minutes after 6, here's how your weather is looking. The South African Weather Service has one warning for you, and it's a yellow level 2 warning. It is for damaging winds resulting in difficulty in navigation and localized disruption of small harbors or ports, and that is expected between Port Edward and Richards Bay. The rest of your weather looks like this. Pretoria will be fine, becoming partly cloudy with a minimum of 14 and a maximum of 27. Johannesburg, fine, becoming partly cloudy, 13 to 27. Vereeniging, fine, becoming partly cloudy by the afternoon, 12 to 28. Mbombela, fine, becoming cloudy in the afternoon with light rain and drizzle, 13 to 28. Polokwane will be fine, becoming partly cloudy in the afternoon with a minimum of 8 and a maximum of 26. Mahikeng, fine, 13 to 29. Bloemfontein will be fine, 13 to 25. Kimberley, fine and windy, 14 to 26. Uppington, fine and windy, 14 to 27. Cape Town will be partly cloudy, becoming fine from the afternoon with a minimum of 12 and a maximum of 18. George, cloudy with chances of light rain, clearing in the afternoon, 11 to 16. Gqeberha, cloudy with scattered showers of rain, 14 to 17. East London will be cloudy with scattered showers of rain, 16 to 17. Durban will be cloudy with isolated showers and rain, 17 to 21. Richards Bay, partly cloudy at first, otherwise cloudy with isolated showers and rain, 16 to 22. And lastly, Pietermaritzburg will have morning fog patches, otherwise cloudy with isolated showers and rain with a minimum of 11 and a maximum of 16.
This week on FC Meets, Tisetso and Bandile chat to seasoned communication specialist Philani Mabaso about the Prince Mangosuthu Legacy Cup. We unpack this inspiring football festival and celebrate an iconic South African statesman. Tune in to SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC Plus this Saturday for October at 6 p.m. FC Meets, football made for community by community. Game. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
I don't love waking up before the sunrise. I don't love wearing a school uniform. But I do love learning. I do love saving my mom money on transport and uniforms while I still get a good education. I do love UCT Online High School because I do love my future. Apply online before 28 November.
The Mpumalanga Provincial Government will host the much-anticipated Investment and Mining Conference in a drive to attract investments to the province. The conference aims to reposition Mpumalanga as a globally competitive investment and mining hub. This will afford the province a platform to reaffirm its determination to unlock new frontiers of economic growth that will benefit both current and future generations. The mining town of Middelburg in the Steve Tshwete local municipality will play host of the conference scheduled for 2nd and 3rd of October 2025. Mpumalanga, a province that works for all.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
22 minutes after 6, the U.S. federal government has officially gone into a partial shutdown after lawmakers failed to reach a budget agreement, triggering widespread disruption across the country. The shutdown, caused by political gridlock between Republicans and Democrats, affects everything from national parks and air travel to healthcare services and pay for federal employees. Roughly 750,000 government workers, about 40% of the federal workforce, will be furloughed without pay, while many essential services operate under strained conditions. Let's unpack it all, this whole idea of a government shutting down. Let's speak to Brooks Spector, international relations expert, who joins me now. Brooks, good morning and thank you for your time. I know you've explained this in the past, and I suppose you're going to have to do it over and over again for all of us to understand. It was the embassy of the US in Zimbabwe and a Facebook post that says, quote, "Due to the lapse of appropriations, this Facebook account will not be updated regularly until full operations resume, with the exception of urgent safety and security information." That's just one example of the impact, and it's a minor one, I suppose, a Facebook update. What is the situation with a government shutdown?
Well, good morning. I think I've explained this innumerable times over the last number of years.
It's one of those quirks you're going to have to explain over and over again.
I may pre-record an explanation and just play it in the future. Let's get down to the basics of it. As you know, the U.S. government, like almost every government in the world, has a budget every year. And in the American case, the financial year, the fiscal year, ends on September 30th and begins anew on October 1st, which was, of course, yesterday. And absent a budget, the government legally is forbidden and incapable of doing certain kinds of things, like, for example, updating the website that you cited. What it must do, however, is continue with essential work, security, defense, things like that, even if the employees doing it do not yet have pay, because they are deemed to be essential, but there's no budget to give them money as salary. Eventually, in almost all cases, they do get paid back up from that time, but sometimes it doesn't quite work out perfectly. In this case, Donald Trump, as president, has threatened to fire a good portion of the federal workforce as a kind of retribution to his political enemies. When I say that, what we're talking about is Congress has the obligation to pass a budget, and the Republicans proposed a temporary measure, which would not have been the full fiscal year, to continue things as they were, consistent with that one big beautiful bill, quote unquote, that was passed some weeks ago. The Democrats, on the other hand, said, whoa, wait a minute now. What you're going to do is going to lead to ending a whole range of support payments for medical care for people who get medical care under the what used to be called the Obamacare Act. It's going to eventually affect a whole range of other social welfare payments, so that people who get health care in that fashion, their premiums are going to double or triple, perhaps, and that means they will end up not having health care. And so that's where the gridlock became real, and the two sides couldn't come to agreement, and so now we are where we are. The Army is still the Army. Police forces of various types, National Park Police and so forth, are still on the job. They're not going to get paid, but they're still working. But anybody who is not deemed to be an essential employee of national security, health, safety, they may well be furloughed. I know some people already who have been given their furlough notices, told to stay home. If I can give a personal story, years ago, back in the early, I guess it was late 1990s, in a similar circumstance, believe it or not, in the office I was working in, I was essential on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and my colleague took over the job on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday when they were essential and I stayed home.
All right, Brooks, let's leave it there. Hopefully it will all be resolved in good time, such that there's a resumption, especially because it does impact federal workers quite significantly. That's Brooks Spector, international relations expert, outlining one of the quirks of American democracy, this idea of the federal government shutting down because of gridlock in Congress.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Hey Zai, good morning to you. So talk to me about the Kaizer Chiefs coach and what he's had to say about small mistakes and missed chances costing Amakhosi there against Amazulu.
Yeah, Thulas, another day, another draw. And it's back to the drawing board. It feels like with this interim coach now, Khalil Ben Yusuf, admitting Kaniso Mayo's early lapse proving costly, with Amakhosi conceding against the run of play despite creating 4 clear chances. But it was not to be. Chiefs have now gone 3 league games without a win. Let's go to the new Richards Bay striker, Knox Mutizwa, saying he has no regrets about how his career has unfolded, even if some have labelled him a journeyman. Mutizwa added he was unfazed by any of the circumstances that led him parting ways with any of his previous employees, including the now defunct Bidvest several years ago.
You know, if those ups and downs, I just wake up in the morning and pray. I have a job, someone out there doesn't have a job. And then I have the opportunity again to go and showcase my talent. So I'm grateful. That's why you see you can't distract me. That's why every time I keep on going. And I will keep on going again.
Now, Manchester City's away day struggles in the Champions League continued as Monaco snatched a 2-2 draw. Meanwhile, Arsenal made it 2 wins from 2. Bukayo Saka scoring deep into stoppage time to seal a 2-0 victory over Olympiacos at the Emirates. Newcastle United were also on charge. Anthony Gordon's double from the penalty spot inspired a 4-0 triumph at Union Saint-Gilloise, their first win of this year's campaign. On to rugby, the Springboks insist they won't underestimate Argentina in Saturday's Rugby Championship decider at Twickenham. Coach Rassie Erasmus says despite South Africa's dominant record over Los Pumas, the Argentinians will be hurting after last weekend's 67-30 defeat in Durban, and dangerous as a result. Veteran leaders Siya Kolisi, Ibn Etzebeth and Oxen Chair are expected to steady the box. And finally, the Lions defence coach Jacques Fourie says they will not underestimate the Italian outfit Zebre ahead of their second United Rugby Championship clash on Sunday. The Joburg side went down 33-20 to Cardiff in their opener and have since travelled to Italy for their back-to-back fixtures against Zebre and Benetton.
If we look at Zebre, the last 3 years, they've improved immensely. They're a team that plays with freedom. You can see that. So if you have a look at the Edinburgh game they played, they played a good game. So there's no more easy teams in the URC. Every team that you're going to play at home is going to be tough. So you're going to have to rock up 100% ready, physically and mentally ready for the game to play and perform.
And that's your sport. We'll tackle more at the top of the hour. For the morning brief, I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, murder-accused Katiso Molefe is expected to head to the High Court in Johannesburg today to appeal the decision by the Alexandra Magistrates Court to deny him bail. The Madlanga Commission will resume on the 13th of this month following an adjournment yesterday. In a statement, the Commission attributed the adjournment to Crime Intelligence Head General Dumisani Khumalo's ill health and the unavailability of Commissioner Sesi Baloyi next week. And the DA in Gauteng says the city of Ekurhulene's debt to service providers ballooned from 6 billion to 13 billion rand in just a period of a month, resulting in projects grinding to a halt. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Morning started off in the Eastern Cape with more protesting, community unrest again. This has been on the go for a couple of weeks now. It's Berlin area, so between Dunsany and King Williamstown, or between KWT and East London, that section near the Berlin exit, there's burning tyres across both carriageways, so there will be a bit of traffic disruption down there for a bit this morning. Maybe just hold back on your travel on that section of the N2. Roger Dyson Road in the Pretoria Industrial area is closed. It's shut between Friki Meyer and Industrial Road. Truck crash and some fallen electrical wires there overnight. Still dealing with that this morning. So there's a bit of a backlog on Industrial, on Roger Dyson, turning off Quacker Road, and a bit of a delay up Quacker Road as motorists have to sort of sit in that traffic to divert around that closure. The N3 roadworks continue apace on Joburg's N3 Buccleuch. Delays already back as far as Marlborough Drive. And the N17, the roadworks there between Rondebolt and Brakpan, just slowing things up. It's more the eastbound side these days. They get hit with some delays out there. Durban up to Pietermaritzburg, a breakdown just by Shongweni through to Key Ridge in amongst the roadworks, so just watch for that. Also breakdown on the N2 south between Sabaya and Gateway. That has been cleared, so that backlog's moved off. And Cape Town, not as busy as normal, which is interesting for a Thursday, but there is some traffic pressure on the N1 coming through Gilberson territory, so N1 City through to Sable Road. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
So for the first update of the morning, here's Ndauling Lechela. Ndauling, let's start with US data out about hiring in that market, in that economy. Tell me about it.
So morning, Thulasizwe. Another sign of cooling in the US labor market. Private payrolls fell by 32,000 in September. ADP reported that this was the sharpest drop since March 2023. Economists had expected a gain of 45,000. Now, unlike the government's non-farm payrolls report, which also counts public sector jobs, ADP's figures track only private employment based on its payroll data. Now, with the government shut down suspending official labor reports, ADP's release takes on added weight ahead of the Fed's meeting later this month, where another rate cut is widely anticipated. Going back to that ADP print, job losses were broad, led by a decline of 19,000 in leisure and hospitality, 16,000 in other services, 13,000 in professional and business services, and smaller drops in trade, transportation, utilities, and construction. Education and health services added 33,000 jobs, the only sectors to show growth. Small businesses cut 40,000 jobs, while larger companies hired 33,000 people. Now, wage growth held steady at 4.5% annually, though pay gains for job changes slowed. ADP's chief economist, Nella Richardson, said the data confirms that employers remain cautious when it comes to hiring as they assess the impact of tariffs on operations.
And tell me about OpenAI sealing a deal with South Korean chip makers.
So those chip makers are Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix. They've signed letters of intent to supply memory chips for OpenAI's Stargate project, joining forces with the ChatGPT maker to help meet surging demand for AI infrastructure. Now, the South Korean chip makers will also partner with OpenAI to build 2 new data centers in the country. Commenting on the move, the presidential office said the deal would give South Korean chip makers an early foothold in the world's largest AI infrastructure effort and a significant growth opportunity for the domestic semiconductor industry. And just an add-on, chip makers like SK Hynix are very different from NVIDIA. NVIDIA makes GPUs, the processors that act like the brains of AI, doing the heavy calculations needed to train and run large models. Samsung and SK Hynix, on the other hand, make memory chips, which are like, how can I describe? They're like fuel tanks of AI. These chips store and move the huge amount of data that GPUs need to work properly. So without enough fast memory, even the most advanced NVIDIA chips can't perform at their best. And as AI systems grow bigger and use more data, demand for memory chips is rising, making the likes of Samsung and SK Hynix just as important as NVIDIA in the AI race.
All right. That makes a lot of sense. Thanks for those examples that you used there, illustrations. And talk to me about the markets. How did we close yesterday and what kind of tone is being set this morning?
So U.S. stocks started the fourth quarter on a positive note, shrugging off government shutdown concerns. The Nasdaq led gains up 0.4%. This as Intel ticked higher following reports that it's in early stage talks to add AMD as a customer at its factories. Green screens back at home as well, with the all share closing 0.6% higher, boosted by the Resources 10 complex as gold stocks continued to run as the yellow metal trades at record highs. Meanwhile, in currency markets, the rand retracing some gains. Yesterday, it hit a one-year high at 17.18 to the dollar. This morning, slightly weaker at 17.22 to the greenback. Over in commodities, oil taking strain on the back of oversupply worries. It's trading just above $65 per barrel. And then lastly, in Asia, sentiment upbeat with stocks in positive territory following the deal between OpenAI and South Korean chip makers.
All right, Dowling, thank you for that. We'll touch base with you once again just after 7:30.
Africa Update on SAFM.
And for that, we turn to Advocate Sipho Mantula. Raz, good morning. Let's start with news out of the DRC. Tell me about Joseph Kabila and the death sentence and the shock that it has sent through North Kivu.
Refreshing morning, Thulas and Jumbo Africa. Thulas, remember yesterday when we were reporting the story of Kabila and the military tribunal sentencing him to death and some fines that he has to pay. The M23, the M23 reacted to us by saying that actually that judgment is a theatrical display of justice. It's also a serious violation of the Declaration of Principles signed by Kinshasa and Kigali in Qatar in July. That was the voice coming from the M23 North Kivu governor. For the ordinary people in Goma, Thulas, they are saying this judgment won't bring peace. Parties should sit down to see how they can find a solution. At the same time, others are saying that, Thulas, when you look at this current crisis, it will exacerbate the question of violence in the Eastern Congo. It will also raise the question of whether the internal dialogue to promote national unity will be realized in the DRC. And the crucial, Thulas, is that Kinshasa and Kigali, they're supposed to meet and deal with the FDLR, what we know as Democratic Forces for the Liberation of Rwanda. So this judgment, it coincides with the meeting soon of Kigali and Kinshasa, Thulas, but also what M23 is saying that they don't agree with the military judgment.
From there, take me to Rabat and across Morocco. Protests there continuing for a sixth straight day, and they are violent.
Thulas, they are calling themselves the Gen Z 212. I wonder what does 212 stand for, Thulas. But the Gen Z, we have been saying that the Nepal, the Kenya, Nairobi moments have come to the youth of the North Africa region now, that the youth in Morocco are demanding better education and health care. And now they're also questioning, remember, Thulas, in 5 years to come, Morocco will be hosting the FIFA World Cup 2030. They are saying that there are stadiums here, but where are the hospitals? This is what they are calling for, and almost 87 youth have been arrested, Thulas, according to the Moroccan Association for Human Rights. So it seems North Africa is boiling, Thulas, on issues of basic needs that ordinary people will always want to desire and will always want to claim.
And talking about that, boiling tensions as well as protests, it's the same situation in Madagascar. That's escalating, isn't it? I mean, the firing of the energy minister was not enough. Then the entire government was fired, the prime minister and the entire government. And now the protesters are calling for the president himself to step down.
Tulas, the youth of Madagascar, what you can call the Gen Z, Antananarivo, they are calling for the DJ to come out from the desk, Andrew Rajolina. Yesterday, they went through the capital city of Madagascar, chanting, saying, Tulas, get out, and waving flags and banners with words like Rajolina out. These are very serious, Tulas, because I've said it before that Rajolina is currently the chair of SADC. The Troika must be worried. And now, Rajolina, remember, came to power in 2009 through coup. He stepped down 2014. He won the presidency in 2018. He secured the third term in 2023. Now he's facing the challenge of what young people now in the island of Madagascar, in Tana, they are calling for basic needs also, Tulas, as I've said, from Morocco to Antananarivo. We're talking about 31 million people who have seen poverty in urban areas. Tulas, if you have been to Madagascar, you will attest, like some of us who have been there, Tulas, we know the plight of Madagascar, and also you might say it's the hegemony of the former colonizers, but also poor governance system that comes from the government in the island.
Yeah. So lastly, Sipho, then your historical archive, not as, you didn't go as deep as you did yesterday. So it's recent history, democratic South Africa history that has to do with one of our key institutions. Take me to the 2nd of October, 1995.
Tulas, is one of the Chapter 9 institutions that you might say on this show is loved and hated by the South Africans. To say, are they really doing their mandate in terms of Section 184 of the Constitution? 3 decades since the formation of the South African Human Rights Commission under the chairpersonship of Professor Nyameko Bani. He's a vivid listener of this show, Tulas, and he was trying to focus on saying that South Africans will enjoy their rights ensured by the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. I will further add, Tulas, the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, and our basic laws, Tulas, that people should enjoy, and the monitoring of legislation, the monitoring of human rights in the country for people to enjoy. And at the same time, Tulas, claim their rights. I think that's very important. And finally, one of their mandates, all government departments, Tulas, they have to monitor in terms of realization of the socio-economic, cultural rights, what we'll call food, clothes, and shelter, Tulas, social security, education, environment, government. Organs of the state, they have to always provide the Human Rights Commission annually to us about what measures have they taken. And in some instances, they sleep over it to us 31 years later. And that's why these Chapter 9 institutions are very important. Maybe the last one, Tulas, if I can ask you, what is the oldest Chapter 9 out of the 9?
What was it? Okay, I'm taking a wild guess. Wild guess.
Yeah.
Would it be... No, it can't be the Human Rights Commission, clearly.
It is 30 years. I want you to go deeper into the archives and maybe ask listeners, if you are failing to get it, you must try to get, and it's a critical one. It's the one
Auditor General?
Correct, Tulas. It is 114 years. It will be 115 next year. Critical. I thought you would say the public protector, which is 1979, but the Auditor General under Sakane Maluleka is 114 years. They are turning 115 next year.
Hey, you were testing whether I'm awake.
I'm sorry, man. I was just choosing that legal mind in you. You said, you know this Chapter 9 very well. The bridges of participatory democracy. We can chastise them to us. We have to be critical on them, but also let us accept that they have a constitutional mandate, they have a legislative mandate according to their act, and the Human Rights Commission have their own act. Santa Sana Thulas as was leading a conversation, SFM observing the Africa Human Rights Month.
All right, thank you for that. That's Sipho Mantula there with the Africa update and a spot quiz for me that just came out from that. Thank you for that, Sipho.
Kathy Motlatlana on SAFM.
If you're ready to talk, I'm here to listen and nothing is off the agenda. Join me on The Talking Point every day from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. Only on SAFM.
Thulasizwe Simelane on The Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
14 minutes to 7 on this Thursday. Government says it's deeply concerned over escalating risks facing the global Samud flotilla, a civilian-led humanitarian mission currently navigating a high-risk zone in the Mediterranean Sea. Amid reports of unidentified drone activity near the vessels, South Africa has called for strict adherence to international law and warned against any actions that could endanger human life. Activists aboard the flotilla say they are pressing ahead toward Gaza despite what they describe as harassment from an Israeli warship overnight. In fact, the latest developments, let me update that story then. The Israeli Foreign Ministry posting a video some time ago of Greta Thunberg's being removed from one of the ships. Vessels carrying about 500 activists have been intercepted now, about 75 miles off the coast of Gaza. Also, Israeli forces boarding and taking control of several ships that are part of the global Samud flotilla. So that is the latest. But let's get the perspective of the spokesperson for the Ministry of the Department of International Relations and Cooperation. That's Crispin Piri, who joins me now. Good morning to you, Crispin, and thank you for your time. So there's been this interception. How does it align with your expectations and your insistence and call that in this high-stakes, high-risk situation, international law and other prescripts needed to be adhered to?
Thanks for having me, Thulas. At this moment, we are working very fiercely to verify a lot of the information that's on in the public domain, and we're trying to establish contact with some of our counterparts who are on the flotilla, South Africans. But it does seem as though the interception thus far has not been in a manner that has harmed humanitarian or civilians in particular, but it seems inconclusive as to exactly how many boats have been intercepted and how many have reached the shores of Gaza. I've seen information that some have said they're very close to the shores of Gaza, so we're working furiously to verify this information at this point. But we do say condemn the violation of international law, and still call for ultimate restraint, that no life should be harmed in this process. And
what is at stake here, Crispin? On the one hand, the whole idea of humanitarian aid flotilla trying to reach Gaza in the wake of what has been happening there over the last few months, versus Israel saying that they want to block it and basically will not grant access to the flotilla. They've done the same with two other flotillas earlier on in the year.
Yeah, what is at stake is human life and humanitarian efforts. All these people have on the ships is humanitarian aid, nothing more and nothing less. And they've done everything possible to ensure that humanitarian law applies in its reality and in its fullest totality. And we are seeing a complete violation of this by the Israeli regime. But like I say, this is work that is still information that is still underway, and we are working hard to ensure that we have the latest updated information on this matter.
And what information do you have about South Africans that are on board some of the ships that make up the flotilla?
It's inconclusive at this point. It does seem as though the ship that Amandla Mandela was on has been intercepted, but that seems inconclusive, and we need to understand exactly where the other South Africans are and what the latest is with regard to them. Moreover, also we need to understand that with the possible interception of Amandla Mandela, what the Israeli regime's next steps are, whether they intend to deport the South Africans who are there, and how quickly this would happen.
And how would you characterize momentum, Crispin, towards some kind of a truce or, an easing of tensions in the wake of the plan that was tabled by the U.S. President Donald Trump a couple of days ago, alongside the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, calling for the establishment of a board of peace that would be headed up by Mr. Trump himself, with other people participating. Are we in any of those conversations?
We were not consulted on this particular plan at this point, and we do note the plan. Initially, we would always say that we welcome initiatives that are geared to ensure that there's a ceasefire and the flow of humanitarian aid. But in this instance, we would also defer to the people who are most affected in this regard, which is the Palestinian people themselves, to really apply themselves on the plan and then see what they say about it. Of course, it's not for us to dictate how they should react to this plan and also how their plan should be ultimately implemented. It is for the Palestinian people to really take a view on that.
And lastly, Crispin, let me ask you about the death of our ambassador to France a couple of days ago, Natim Tetwa. What further information are you gleaning and getting from the French authorities? A lot of questions being asked around the circumstances. I'm sure you will have seen the chatter domestically. But what is the official communication from the French authorities?
As of yesterday, the family of former Ambassador Mthethwa had released a statement to say that they initially have received a briefing from the French authorities and they understand that they would be receiving further information. So at some point we will be able to defer to the family to continue updating the public specifically on what the French authorities have informed them. I think because of the matter's sensitivity, it would be best also for the family to speak for themselves about what they are being told by the French authorities. But as we understand it, the matter is still under investigation by the French authorities. They are working around the clock to ensure that they produce a final report on what the investigation finds so that they can give the mortal remains of Ambassador Mthethwa over to the family, who would then advise on the repatriation process and funeral services and memorial, the like, over some time.
All right, let's leave it there. Thank you for your time. Once again, that's Crispin Piri. He speaks on behalf of the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
It's very heavy traffic coming in from Protea Glen, Lenasia side this morning. N12, you're going to sit heavily just coming out of Lenasia, passing Klipsray Valley and on towards the Golden Highway exit. If you're Joburg bound, about to come on from Protea Glen or about to come out of the top of Lenasia, you might want to reroute through Soweto and just avoid that N12 towards Golden Highway. It is very heavy. Roadworks continue on the N3 running north up to Buccleuch. It's heavy, almost back as far as Alex. That'll probably get back around Edenvale. What you've been through for the last couple of weeks, it's unchanged this morning. And a little bit further south, the N3 from Elands up into Galulis, looking quite so as well. Crash on the N4. This is the Rustenburg or Bakwena Highway coming through from Roslyn Road down towards the Vanderboom exit. If you're on your way on that N4 towards Durhampool Plaza, as you approach that Border Court exit, there is some quite heavy traffic queuing there. And the mighty Mopani Highway standing from Theo Martins all the way down to Eskia and Pathlali. Durban side today, there is a breakdown at Shongweni on your way to Pietermaritzburg and another one at Cliffdale. It's the one at Cliffdale that's got things backed up on your way through to Pietermaritzburg today. The M7 busy at the Pinetown, slightly different sort of pattern than we had yesterday, still slow from Hunstedman up towards the N3 highway. Cape Town, a bit lighter volumes this morning for a Thursday, which is very interesting. The N7 Jakes Curville drive under pressure though, just moving off the N2. It's slow up through Langa and in towards the Epping area, and then once you sort of get through that Beaufort Circle junction, you stay in a bit of traffic through Viking Way. There are some roadworks on the N7 northbound these days by the casino exit. Looks like they flicked over from the southbound, which were there forever, and are now in place on the northbound side. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
5 minutes to 7. Corruption Watch has responded forcefully to the Special Investigating Unit's interim report on corruption at Tembisa Hospital, which was released on the 29th of September. The report reveals the astounding scale of looting, over 2 billion rand, linked to 3 major syndicates operating with the help of complicit officials in both the hospital as well as the Gauteng Department of Health. Corruption Watch says it joins the national calls for immediate prosecutions, protection of whistleblowers, and systemic reform in the country's public healthcare governance. Let's speak to Janine Erasmus, who is website editor at Corruption Watch and joins me now to take that conversation forward. Janine, good morning and thank you for your time. So the SIU is one aspect, operating as it does within a specified mandate and focusing on civil recoveries in instances such as these. But you are calling for more to be done. What's that more?
Good morning to Thulasizwe and listeners. Yes, absolutely. It is one thing, the SIU is doing fantastic work. They really are. They're one of our better functioning government units. They've been very, very effective. But just getting the money back is not enough. We've got to stop the money from actually departing in the first place. So what we've seen in the past is that there is, in fact, a lack of consequence management is one of the main factors here as well, because looters know that nothing's going to happen to them if they, even if they're implicated. The consequences have been very, very minimal. We've seen the digital vibes, for instance, the digital vibes saga that happened during the COVID outbreak. We have seen the SIU itself doing a lot of recovery work in that respect as well, but there've been no high-profile convictions or prosecutions. It's mainly the people at a lower level, on the company level, the service provider level. But we need, within government itself, where a lot of this corruption originates from, we need the consequences to be visible right there and then. We need prosecutions of the individuals. We need prosecutions of the syndicates, because we know now that there are syndicates. We have to see consequences, and that is one of the ways that we can deter corruption.
Is there something that suggests to you, Janine, that this could be the moment that jolts South Africa into a complete rejection of endemic and entrenched corruption? What will make this moment to jolt us, where we had the State Capture Commission of Inquiry, for example, going on over a number of years, and that didn't seem to be the moment that jolts us into action, but also critically didn't have the effect of jolting the authorities into fixing what has already been identified, the weaknesses in the country's procurement system?
Yes, exactly. Thulasizwe, I don't know if we've become so inured to corruption over the years that, it's hard to really to get the people to rise up as we should be. But this is something on another level. I mean, if we think about what the SIU revealed the other day, 2 billion rand looted, and that is just, we've got to sort of think on a broader scale. That is just one hospital in one province. Now imagine if that is going on in numerous other hospitals all over the country, as I'm sure it is. It's ludicrous to think that this is not happening elsewhere. We've got to put into our minds the scale of the money that is being looted. We've got to put into our minds the fact that government tells us that there's not enough money for hospitals. Hospitals are underfunded, we know, but now we know why. The fact is that there is money, but the money is just not going to where it's supposed to be. The money is going into the pockets of criminals. And this is something that we have to get upset about it, because this is a situation that affects people's lives. Lives are impacted. This is a life-threatening situation. Not only for the whistleblowers. I mean, we think of Babita Diakaran and many others who were assassinated for blowing the whistle, but we think of the patients who are trying to get the health services that they need and who cannot, because resources are not available, medicine is not available, doctors, staff are in short supply, or the staff themselves are under so much pressure that it's hard for them to give a proper service. So this really is something that we've got to think about on a broad scale, the whole scale of it.
Yeah. All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time. Janine Erasmus is website editor at Corruption Watch. That brings us to 7 a.m. Let's go straight to N. Musa.
Outsurance is in the business of saving you money on your car insurance premium. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
In our top stories, Thulasizwe Simelane to appeal court's bail decision, and experts warn of trade uncertainty following AGOA expiration. Good morning. Murder-accused Katiso Molefe is expected to head to the High Court in Johannesburg today to appeal the decision by the Alexandra Magistrate Court to deny him bail. Molefe is accused of masterminding the 2022 murder of Oupa Sifoka, known as DJ Somebody, and two of his bodyguards. He faces several charges, including murder, being in possession of unlicensed firearms, and conspiracy to commit murder. Neria Hlakotsa reports.
The Alexandra Magistrates Court rejected Katiso Molefe's request for bail in August, arguing that he failed to prove exceptional circumstances required for him to be released. During the application, the state told the court that he is the mastermind behind the fatal shooting of Oupa Sifoka, also known as DJ Somebody. The businessman, however, maintained that the evidence against him is speculation, and he denied being a flight risk.
EFF leader Julius Malema says he will appeal the guilty verdict against him handed down by the East London Magistrates Court in the Eastern Cape yesterday. Malema was found guilty of unlawful possession of a firearm, ammunition and discharging a firearm in public during the EFF's 5th anniversary celebrations at Sisa Dukashe Stadium in Mdantsane. His former bodyguard and co-accused Adrian Snyman was found not guilty by the same court. Malema says he finds it strange that Snyman was cleared of all charges, yet he's the one who's alleged to have handed him the firearm.
They said accused number 2 gave me the firearm. Now they are releasing him, which means he didn't give me the firearm. Why are you not releasing me when you release a person you allege gave me the firearm? By releasing accused number 2, the whole case should have collapsed. But the racist was looking for me, and that's why they could not collapse the case for racist reason, to appease the AfriForum, to appease the Oval Office of Donald Trump.
The Madlanga Commission will resume on the 13th of this month following an adjournment yesterday. In a statement, the Commission attributed the adjournment to Crime Intelligence Head General Dumisani Khumalo's ill health and the unavailability of Commissioner Sesi Baloyi next week. General Khumalo, who's considered as a key witness in the Commission, fell sick yesterday after arriving at the Commission's venue at Bridget Mabandla Justice College in Pretoria. National Police Commissioner General Fani Masimula has confirmed that Khumalo is receiving the best medical care and is in good spirits. The DA in Gauteng says the city of Ekurhulene's debt to service providers ballooned from 6 billion to 13 billion rand in just a period of a month, resulting in projects grinding to a halt. DA member of the provincial legislature, Mike Waters, says companies rendering services to the city are struggling to sustain their businesses and pay their employees due to the city's failure to pay them within the stipulated time. Waters says the party will engage the MEC for cooperative governance on measures and interventions his department will take to assist the Metro to address the problem.
This is not a bookkeeping error. It is a direct violation of the Municipal Finances Management Act, which requires municipalities to pay service providers within 30 days. By failing to do so, Ekurhulene is breaking the law, crippling small businesses, and sabotaging service delivery across the city. Contractors who are not paid cannot pay their workers and have to lay people off. Projects grind to a halt, and communities are left without services that they depend on.
Political economist Professor Patrick Bond says US President Donald Trump's tariffs on South African goods have led to a sharp drop in the country's exports to the US during the second quarter of this year. Experts have warned uncertainty over jobs and trade still hangs over South Africa following the expiration of the African Growth and Opportunity Act. Bond says in the absence of any relief on AGOA, South African goods will now face standard tariffs on exports to the US. This while certain products such as copper, pharmaceuticals and certain minerals are exempt. Bond elaborates.
So we're still at 30%, and I think for the most crucial exports hit hard now are since end of July are in citrus and the vineyard products, the wine and the grapes, and also macadamia nuts. So we're going to see lots of job losses in agriculture.
Recapping the top story, murder accused Katiso Molefe is expected to head to the High Court in Johannesburg today to appeal the decision by the Alexandra Magistrate Court to deny him bail. For SFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
52-year-old Janine turned her car insurance premium into a win, not a worry. With Outsurance, she now pays only 561 Rand a month for her 2024 Kia Picanto. And with just one call, Outsurance got 29-year-old Tsana on track with a premium of just 796 Rand a month for her 2025 Jeto Dashing. Ready to get more out of your car insurance? SMS out to 30754 today. That's out to 30754. Outsurance, licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, soccer action. Kaizer Chiefs held to a frustrating 1-1 draw by Amazulu at FNB Stadium. And in rugby, the Springboks are bracing for a bruising rugby championship decider at Twickenham, with Rassie Erasmus warning Argentina will be hurting and dangerous. We'll have details just before 7:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Morning coming into Joburg out of Lenasia and Protea Glen. Very heavy on the N12. This is the Potch Highway. Big queues down towards Golden Highway. If you're on your way inbound from Protea Glen or joining at the top of Lenasia onto that N12 towards Joburg, maybe a reroute through Soweto might get you into Joburg side quicker than the N12. N3, the roadworks at Buccleuch still there. Traffic now parked back as far as Alex. Pretoria this morning, the Roger Dyson closure because of that tanker crash earlier this morning. Still causing some delays locally. Industrial Road and Kwaka Road seem to be taking traffic around that. A collision on the N4. This is the Bekwena Highway heading through to Duranpoor Plaza just after the Roslyn exit. A crash by the Vanderboom, by Bonaccord exit. That is quite heavy. That's the N4 eastbound. And if you're coming out of Durban on your way to Pietermaritzburg, big traffic starting to build up. A broken down truck up at Cliffdale. Traffic queuing back as far as Key Ridge already. That looks heavy. Cape Town, plenty of delay on the N7 northbound, passing Lunga to Epping, and then more delays as you get up to Viking Way and through towards the casino. There's some roadworks on the northbound side and some big volume. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
9 minutes after 7 on this Thursday. Hey, good morning and welcome to it. It's the second hour of the Morning Brief here on SAFM. On the traditional radio airwaves, we are on 104 to 107, but of course, always live on our digital platforms, including YouTube, on X, as well as on Facebook and on our website as well. Here's some of what's coming up in the next few minutes. I'm in conversation with Caleb Kasim, who is the Eskom Chief Financial Officer. The power utility returning to profitability for the first time in 8 years. Basically, that the situation was a turnaround, dramatic turnaround from 25.5 billion Rand loss last year to a profit, turning a profit of nearly 24 billion Rand pre-tax this year. So Caleb Kasim is on standby to unpack those numbers for us and how it all came together for the power utility. And then immediately after that, I'll be in conversation with Lukhona Mnguni. We'll be talking about the developments at the Madlanga Commission. What a week it's been at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, right? Yesterday, the commission having to postpone and say that they will resume their hearings on Monday, the 13th of October, simply because the witness that was on the stand, General Dumisani Khumalo, suddenly felt unwell and had to seek medical attention, as well as Advocate Sesibaloyi, who is one of the commissioners, is unavailable due to commitments that have to do with the Judicial Service Commission. But there's still a lot more to unpack in terms of the testimony that was led during these past few days. So Lukhona Mnguni will join me to unpack it all. You are an integral part of the conversation. There is no conversation without you. So do give me a call, 086 000 2032. I'm ready and willing to listen and engage. You can also do the same with a WhatsApp voice note to 0614 104 107. With that said, then, let's get into it. The second hour of the Thursday edition of the Morning Brief.
You could spend 10 minutes trying to fix the office printer, or get a 10-minute quote from Outsurance that could save you thousands on your car insurance. SMS out to 30754. Like 65-year-old Helena, who now pays an incredibly low 398 Rand a month for her 2025 Hyundai Exter. With Outsurance, you get the legendary Out Bonus that pays you a percentage of your premiums back if you're claim-free. SMS out to 30754. After switching, 48-year-old Felicity now pays only 836 Rand a month for her 2020 Hyundai Tucson. Outsurance will either save you money on your car insurance or give you cash. If Outsurance can't beat what you're currently paying, ask them for 500 Rand. Make that 1,500 Rand if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Savings or cash, you have nothing to lose. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Outsurance, licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online. Dis-Chem has the best deals just for you, with everything you need on your healthy living journey. Get 20% off the A. Vogel Molkasan range for a healthy digestive system. Buy any 3 Slow Mag products and get the cheapest free for relief from muscle cramps, fatigue and stress. And get 2+1 cheapest free on any Turbovite supplements to boost physical and mental performance. Offers valid until 19 October at Dis-Chem, your healthy living destination. Better health starts here.
Spring is in the air, meaning it's almost time for the 10th SA Garden Day on Sunday, the 12th of October. Celebrate the day with a garden party, lunch under the trees, or cake at a community garden, and invite your friends, family, or neighbors to enjoy your garden with you. Visit gardenday.co.za for inspiration and share pictures of your celebration on social media with #GardenDaySA. SA Garden Day, Sunday, the 12th of October.
You are listening to the Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
13 minutes after 7. Eskom has posted a profit for the first time in 8 years thanks to government's 254 billion rand debt relief package and a sharp drop in diesel costs. The power utility reported a nearly 24 billion rand pre-tax profit for the year ended March compared to a 25.5 billion rand loss last year. Higher tariffs and improved sales volumes lifted revenue by 45 billion rand, while finance costs fell as borrowings decreased. But despite the turnaround, Eskom's debt remains at 372 billion rand, and auditors have again flagged serious concerns about its long-term sustainability. Let's speak to Caleb Kassam, who is Eskom's Chief Financial Officer. Good morning to you and thank you for your time. You credit all of this to the implementation of your turnaround strategy, but my goodness, it is a dramatic turnaround from 25.5 billion rand loss last year to posting a profit. How did you pull it off?
Good morning to you and your audience. Yeah, no, I think you in your summary, the catalyst to all of it was the government support package, because firstly, from a finance perspective, it allowed us a runway for 3 years, not to stress about the capital markets and raising debt and repayments. We could then release 3 years capex maintenance requirements for the business to focus on the operations. That then stimulated the generation recovery, and we've seen, from FY24, 329 days of load shedding to 13, and you can see the improvement continues this year. Correctly so, when the operations improve, the volumes went up. We've generated that 3.5% more volumes, and then our reliance on the expense of diesel has dropped significantly. And that trend continues as we see in the current year, that we're only using the diesel during peak hours. So, and your last and critical point, we see the benefits of the deleveraging of the balance sheet coming down to 372, and that is why to continue as per the debt relief, we don't borrow for FY26. We have an intention not to borrow in FY27. Reduce the debt on the balance sheet, reduce the borrowing costs, and the better performance comes through in your operation costs and your contributions.
Explain in as simple terms as you can master this government debt relief package, because it seems to have been quite significant in your performance. And that said, does it in any way dampen the sense of gratification that you may be feeling in terms of the results that you attained?
No. I think the key point we're saying, this was the catalyst, but at the end of the day, yes, if you look pure finance numbers on that 49 billion swing on that profit before tax, you've got the benefit coming through on a 16 billion reduction in diesel. That is significant in anyone's terms, Thulasizwe, and we're not stopping there as Eskom. That is still high. We would like that to come down to about 12 billion in this current financial year. And as the CFO and working in conjunction with the business, we believe that number maximum should be 6 billion for the year at 500 million per month at peak levels. But it's not only about that, right? The maintenance and making sure the plant then performs in terms of reliability. As we said in the results, the drop in breakdowns have added about 1.5 Kusile stations back as baseload capacity. So in the mix of producing electricity, we can call on the cheaper production coal stations rather than just the expensive ones as well. So it's a combination of factors. But I think don't underestimate the staff morale that has come through and the momentum that has come through with the board supporting, with the minister, the CEO, and the culture in the organization.
What do you say to listeners who are listening to us and saying, yes, great, good going for you, Eskom, achieving the results you did, but they've come at a cost to us in the form of the high tariffs. Each and every year, you as Eskom go before NERSA and you press for higher and higher tariffs, justifying it by saying that you want it to be linked to the cost of producing electricity.
Yeah, and so we have done that, right? And we fully support and agree that the mechanism is only allow efficient costs to be passed on to the consumer. And NERSA has pushed back, even in the current decision, there's a number of costs that are disallowed that we now need to take out of our base. But the other important part here, Thulasizwe, is you also have to cover your cost of capital. No organization will survive if you can't cover your cost of capital. We currently earning now a 4% percentage on our asset base. No IPP will come into the market at 4%. It migrates to 6%, but that's the element that needs to be on a level playing field with the independent producers. But we fully support, as we said, that we need to extract efficiencies out of a cost base. The last point is, when we're dealing with affordability to industrials or residential customers, we need to be transparent on the subsidies. And the minister has indicated he's looking at the electricity pricing policy, and that is critical and essential for the country going forward.
Lastly, talk to me about the municipal debt situation. What's your plan around that? It just keeps growing and growing.
Yeah.
There doesn't seem to be a plan, is there?
No, so there is a plan, right? I mean, just the numbers year on year, it grew from 75 to 96 billion. Unsustainable. We as Eskom, in conjunction with National Treasury and Sauder and Cocteau, we're saying the distribution agency agreement, where we work in partnership with the municipalities to help with their credit management, their technical maintenance, etc., billing systems. Let's work hand in hand so we can improve what they bill and what they collect at municipalities, and Eskom gets a increased proportion of their current accounts revenues coming into the business, and then you get the municipalities on a sustainable basis. Eskom has no intention to be in these municipalities on a permanent basis, but we need to work with them to put them on a platform that they can then sustain themselves going forward. Currently, it hasn't worked. Only 9 out of the 71 municipalities are complying with the National Treasury debt relief conditions. So we need some further interventions on that.
Wow. All right. Thank you for sharing that. That's Caleb Kassem, who is Eskom's Chief Financial Officer, going over the numbers with us this morning.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Zinzi, the Gen Z. Word on the street is you sold your car.
Yes, and I needed a glow up. Hashtag no hustle, no hassle.
So wait. The influencer got influenced by We Buy Cars.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And they came to me. They checked the car, they gave me an offer. Oh, and they paid me immediately. Easier than an Insta Live, without the weird DMs at 2 a.m.
I didn't understand half of the things you just said, but hey, We Buy Cars. Geared for the glow up, geared for you.
This is Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief.
22 minutes after 7, the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry has postponed its hearings until the 13th of October. This after Crime Intelligence boss General Dumisani Khumalo fell ill and Commissioner Advocate Sesibaloyi confirmed she would be tied up with Judicial Service Commission duties. Khumalo had been due to continue his testimony, his explosive testimony, which has already exposed damning communications between businessman Brown Mokhotsi and alleged criminal kingpin Vusmuzi Ket Matlala. Those messages detailed plans to manipulate investigations and tender decisions in Matlala's favor, while also bankrolling Mokhotsi and sidelined Police Minister Senzo Mchunu's political projects. Lukhona Mnguni is a political analyst and joins me to unpack it all. Good morning to you, Lukhona, and thank you for your time. A break in momentum in terms of the testimony being heard. Is it of any significance in the timelines, but also in terms of just how the storytelling has been happening over the last while, at least from the police officials that have testified?
Well, good morning to us and good morning to your listeners. Indeed, there is a break in momentum. It does affect definitely the timelines, not necessarily the substance of what is to be placed on record, because remember that what General Khumalo was taking the commission and, of course, the general public into confidence about is already deposed into the commission's record in the form of an affidavit and the annexures that he's going through, which are the printouts and so on. And that is the version of events that is going to be placed in the public record. And then there will be another application that will then, of course, as the other generals have already said, they will then go in camera. So that does put a bit of time pressure on the timelines. You'll remember that the president said he would expect some form of a report within 3 months. So you now have 2 weeks that's going to be lost in terms of the commission's work, insofar as its public sittings is concerned. And I think it would be amiss for the commission to issue a report to the president based on information that is disclosed to the commissioners that they've read but has not been put on record in the public domain. So I think the two things have to go hand in hand, and therefore no doubt the timeline. Of course, in the general public's mind, the trail of thought and following the information will be necessary, to be maintained, so that people don't have, memory lapses and gaps. But lastly to last, I think that the commissioners themselves, in the point that you said about Advocate Baloyi and the JSC, the commissioners themselves have to probably free up their diaries in very, very significant ways.
Yeah. And then in terms of what we heard this week, Lukhona, a lot of it centered around communications between Brown Mokhotsi and Ket Matlala. And I've formed the view that unless there's an argument that is sustained and it prevails that says those communications are not authentic, they're not genuine communications between those two gentlemen, I've formed the view that unless that happens, there's a lot of question marks that have been raised, particularly for the minister who is on leave, Senzo Mchunu. Just the whole question of, can it be narrowed down to coincidence that what Ket Matlala wants, Ket Matlala gets?
Well, Thulas, I mean, if you go through towards the end of Tuesday's testimony, it seems as if Matlala was not getting much from Mokgotsi, and he was becoming quite irritable.
Yes, eventually,
with Mokgotsi at some point. But look, Thulas, this is the problem of these runners, leeches, rent seekers, who are go-betweens between money holders and politicians. They themselves are politicians. They have some capital. They find a way to be close to certain political heads or figures and utilize their names, their association to access some stuff. So in the first instance, I think Brown Mokgotsi himself needs to really explain himself. In the second instance, Thulas, I mean, I think it's very difficult to say that metadata download is fictitious and it's been doctored or reconstructed, but we'll have to see if they come up with that kind of defense. In the third instance, Thulas, there is the question mark around the minister's association with Brown Mokgotsi, why he would have at first denied Brown Mokgotsi, whereas he actually knows Mokgotsi and is clearly a close associate of his, and they have constant communication. Even the minister at times initiates the communication with Brown Mokgotsi. So there are a lot of questions there. The last question to us, I think for the ANC, there's actually something here that needs to be answered. In one of the messages, Mokgotsi appears to be asking for money to go cater for a regional meeting in the Eastern Cape. That strikes me as quite concerning because Mokgotsi is from the Northwest. And why would he be catering for convenings in the Eastern Cape? Is he a fundraiser? Are the people in the Eastern Cape that he's associated with?
Yeah.
Was this a legitimate meeting? Was this a factional meeting? Was this a promotional meeting for the minister and so on? So I think those are the four sets of broad things for me that come out, and politically, I think that the ANC itself should be asking questions as to, who were you catering for in the Eastern Cape?
Very quickly.
That.
So those are your four broad themes, Lukhona, and I concur with you. But let me suggest a fifth. The other theme that disturbed me was the ease with which people external to the government system were able to ask for details of officials, including people in internal audit. When I heard that message being read out, it made my blood run cold, that this external player who is accused of being a criminal mastermind could make inquiries and with ease get details of officials, including someone who was in internal audit in the SAPS. What did you make of that?
Not too much. Of course, extremely concerning, but I mean, we've got enough evidence of the killing of internal auditors, people in supply chain, in various entities of government, whether you are talking about, Babita at the province, or you are talking about various ones in different municipalities recently, now the Ekurhuleni head of auditing. So the point is that these criminal elements are well embedded in the state, and they are interwoven with corrupt officials who enable them and allow them at a very cheap price to have access to information that they ordinarily should not have. And this is exactly what puts people's lives at risk when we are seen as a stumbling block, whether it is to the release of payment or compliance issues and so on, and you get taken out. And this is exactly the modus operandi that is now becoming, I think, a little bit clearer in terms of how it is sustained.
You captured my fear quite aptly there, Lukhona. Thank you for that. Just that disturbed me, I won't lie. And I keep saying, unless they can prove that these communications are not authentic, these are not the people that they purport to be, it's disturbing that people who are outside could get personal details of officials. My goodness, that really disturbs me. All right, let's move on to N. Musa. I'll take N, and then Zai, if you don't mind, can I please talk to you immediately after the news update?
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, the South African Social Security Agency has confirmed it has extended the notice period for the termination of the Master Services Agreement with Postbank for an additional 3 months. The confirmation comes after Postbank announced the agreement between the two entities remains firmly in place. Murder accused Katiso Molefe is expected to head to the High Court in Johannesburg today to appeal the decision by the Alexandra Magistrates Court to deny him bail. And the first US government shutdown in 7 years is starting to have a significant impact on non-essential services. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Big traffic on Pretoria's N4. It's a crash. It's on the approach to Dorenport Plaza before you get there, just by Bon Accord. So coming through from Roslyn, it's heavy. I'm hearing it's a TMPD. So I'm trying to Metro Police vehicle involved. That's why it's taking forever to get that scene clear. But the N4 under unusual queues towards Bon Accord. Mighty Mopani Highway, Theo Martin's all the way down to Eskia and Pathali's heavy. N14, Krugersdorp Highway users, heads up. You're going to queue this morning from the R55, Pretoria West, exit up towards Brockfontein Interchange. On your way to Pretoria, that's heavy. Also, same sort of deal on the N12 coming in from Lenasia, Protea Glen. Big queues eastbound, Joburg bound through towards the Golden Highway exit. Going out of Durban, it's a long haul morning up to Pietermaritzburg. Stationary truck squeezed in between the Jersey barriers around Cliffdale. Big traffic there all the way back to Key Ridge already. And if you're driving Cape Town, we mentioned earlier, slightly lighter volumes noticeable this morning. They have something to do with school holidays, the impending school holidays, I guess. The M5 is a standout, though, queuing from Kenilworth through towards Kubo. Get a change. And if you're on your way to Stellenbosch, quite a backlog this morning, 304, passing Kaya Mundi down in towards Adam Tussen Central Stellenbosch. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Hey Zai, good morning to you. So Amakosi versus Usutu end in a stalemate, but it is the Amakosi who rue their missed chances more than the other team.
Oh, yeah, Thulas. I mean, well, a point is a point, right? But Amakosi fans, they don't want entertainment. They want a happy ending. They want their team to win. And last night, unfortunately, 1-1 was the scoreline against AmaZulu. The interim coach, Khalil Ben Yusuf, admitting Kaniso Mayo's early lapse proving costly, with Amakosi conceding against the run of play. Despite creating 4 clear chances, Glody Lepo's missed penalty added to the frustration before Mduduzi Shabalala's strike rescued a point. Chiefs are now 3 league games without a win. Now let's go to Richards Bay. Their new striker, Knox Mutizwa, says he has no regrets about how his career has unfolded despite being labelled a journeyman. The Zimbabwe international left Golden Arrows last month as their all-time top scorer with over 60 goals. Mutizwa insists football is about embracing circumstances and taking the chances that come with rather than dwelling on the past.
They are coming there in Richards Bay, and we recently played them and we beat them in the league. So, but you don't undermine opponents. Chiba is a very good team, but obvious I'm playing for Richards Bay and we are going to win the game. Yeah, my man, there is no time in football. You must hit the ground running. So even me, I can't wait to hit the ground running, and you never know. I might go to AFCON, and that's every player's dream to represent his country, you see.
Elsewhere, Gonzalo Ramos scored an injury-time winner as Paris Saint-Germain won 2-1 at Barcelona in a meeting of 2 of the Champions League favourites. In the meantime, Jude Bellingham has been named England's Men's Player of the Year for the 2024-25 campaign. The 22-year-old midfielder scored once in 8 games as England achieved Nation League promotion under interim boss Lee Carsley before beginning World Cup qualifying with the new manager Thomas Tuchel. And finally, cricket, Ash Gardner struck a superb lower order century as Australia began the defence of their World Cup title with an 89-run victory over New Zealand in Indore. The all-rounder helping her side recover after they slipped to 128 for 5, striking 115 from 83 balls as the 7-time champions piled up 326. That's your sport swing back, top of the hour. On the Morning Brief, I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning once again to Ndauling. Ndauling, tell me about Capitec. You're saying that they are intensifying their push into the telecoms market. So you could, I don't know, get your banking done where you also get your, I don't know, cell phone contract, or what? What do they do exactly there?
Well, it's all those added services. So from buying airtime to even buying phones. When I spoke to the company's CEO, Graham Lee, he pretty much said that he wants the bank to be a one-stop shop, right? So they're using their customers that they've amassed on their personal banking side to introduce them to some of their other products. And now they're letting customers buy smartphones directly through its app. Capitec Connect, the bank's MVNO unit, offers 22 devices with 30 gigs of free data. The group says, the group is offering 22 devices with 30 gigs of free data, 3-day delivery and zero deposit financing, part of a strategy to deepen customer engagement and reduce churn. Now, MVNOs are usually companies outside the telecom sector that lease network infrastructure from traditional mobile operators to offer their own data and voice services. Capitec Connect operates using Cellc's network. Other banks offer similar MVNO services, the likes of FNB, and I know Standard Bank also has some of those services. Now back to Capitec, the mobile unit has grown rapidly with half-year net income rising to 165 million rands from 69 million, and active users nearly doubling to 1.1 million. Capitec Connect also drives value-added services like airtime, data, and electricity, contributing 2.1 billion rands to group earnings, up 29% from a year ago, and now accounting for 26% of the total. A Business Day article notes that Capitec has overtaken FNB as South Africa's largest MVNO, capturing more than 40% of airtime and data transactions. These developments come alongside Capitec's interim results, where earnings jumped 26%, while its retail banking unit continued to contribute the biggest chunk to earnings. These numbers also highlighting the growing role of its mobile and fintech businesses in the bank's overall performance.
The Food and Allied Workers Union turned to the Labour Court to try and stop retrenchments at SAB. That didn't go their way, did it?
That's right, Thulas. The Labour Court has dismissed the case brought by FAHU aimed at stopping SAB from cutting over 200 jobs, citing defects in the union's application. Now, in a News 24 article, SAB confirmed that the matter was struck from the court's roll on Tuesday because the application was not compliant with urgent labour court requirements. An SAB spokesperson said the company is confident its restructuring is both procedurally and substantially fair and was undertaken to improve operational efficiencies amid a challenging economic environment. FAO, in the meantime, had sought an urgent court order to ensure SAB followed fair procedure in the retrenchments already implemented and to prevent further dismissals pending compliance. Now, the union claimed SAB and its parent company, AB InBev, had issued notices in May indicating the potential retrenchment of 233 employees following a review of its logistics operations, but said its requests for information to engage on the proposed changes were rejected. FAO, in the meantime, did not immediately comment on the court's dismissal.
Lastly, Ndauling, recap for us the standings in the markets at this hour.
Kicking things off in Asia, Thulas, markets in positive territory this morning, with the Hong Kong Hang Seng leading the gains, up 1.6%. Those gains were led by tech stocks on the back of optimism around the AI boom. And then over in Wall Street, futures are in the green. This as Fed rate cut bets increase following the ADP jobs report, which revealed that the labor market continues to slow. And then coming back home, the gold price rally still fueling the JSE, with the all share closing 0.6% higher. The rand retracing some gains, but still remaining quite resilient at 17.21 to the greenback. Oil, in the meantime, staging a bit of a rebound, but still near 4-month lows. Brent has been weighed down by rising U.S. inventories and speculations that OPEC Plus would raise output again next month, and there's further fueling oversupply worries. Oil is trading at $65.80 per barrel this hour.
All right, Ndauling, thank you for that. We'll touch base with you one more time just after 8:30.
Spar brings you super savings, like 700ml all gold tomato sauce for $32.99 and get 100 megs free data on Spar Mobile, or 400-gram Koo baked beans and tomato sauce. Buy 2 for 30 Rand and get 50 megs free data on Spar Mobile. Plus, you could win your share of 6 million Rand in instant cash. Competition ends 7 October. Prices valid 23 September to 7 October 2025 while stocks last. T's and C's apply.
Who's behind the mask? A singing pineapple? A disco dancing dokolosh? It can only mean one thing. It's the Masked Singer US Season 9, the only show where celebrities hide behind wild costumes and even wilder vocals. Is that Beyonce? No, it's your dentist dressed as a giant taco. Unmask the madness, the mystery and the mayhem. Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. on S3. S3's got the masks, the music, and maybe your favorite celeb in a flamingo suit. Don't miss it.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Right, let me start with a call from Active Citizen in Polokwane. Good morning to you.
Thulasizwe, good morning to you and your listeners. I want to take this opportunity to call upon all South Africans to join me and others in prayer for all political leaders who are in parliament and everywhere else who are implicated in this Mandlanga Commission or who are active in corrupt activities to say, if they die naturally or through suicide or otherwise, they must rest in hell. They must rest and rot in hell. Let us pray so that these people can understand that we are pissed off as South Africans, because they're not stealing from government, but they're stealing from us. Imagine how many people are now dying because of the corrupt activities in hospitals, in public institutions. 2 billion is a lot of money. 2 billion is more than the budget of Swaziland. 2 billion can hire a lot of doctors and nurses. But a group of 3 people have decided to lose that money for their own personal benefit, and we are expected to be sympathetic to them. So I want South Africans to pray with me to say, these people commit suicide or your heart light goes up and die. You must die and rot in hell.
All right. Thank you for that. Your outrage, I understand that when an active citizen, really it is outrageous, some of what we've been hearing. Of course, let it not be understood as prejudging what we're hearing at the Mandlanga Commission. And we keep prefacing it by saying that if any of it is true, already what we have heard is disturbing enough. And then you have the situation that has been found by the SIU in as far as the Tembisa Hospital is concerned, where at the very least the standard of on a balance of probabilities, which is what the SIU works on, because they work on the civil standard, that at the very least has been met, at least to their satisfaction, such that they've been able to talk about that situation of 2 billion rand having been looted. Parks in Cape Town, good morning.
Thulas, I don't know if you're, but surely as somebody and you've already heard about the corruption that has been discovered in the city of Cape Town through various private service providers, also city officials. My call is that can not just you guys at SAFM, but just generally your counterpart stations and media houses just cover that. And it's actually for us as people who are ratepayers and taxpayers in the city of Cape Town to actually get to the heart of where does how deep this goes.
Absolutely.
Because it's not a case of comparing which government is corrupt than the other, but
Yes,
just to understand as to how deep are we in terms of corruption, how embedded in our
100%.
society. So that is
100%.
my call to you.
Say a bit more for me then, Parks. You are absolutely spot on. Wherever it is, it's City of Cape Town, Western Cape Government, Gauteng, wherever it rears its ugly head. Did I just lose Parks? All right, I don't know what happened. I wanted him to say a bit more so that we have something specific to follow up on. All right. I don't know if he can call back or he can forward something that he would want us to follow up on that is more specific. But I agree with him 100% about the issue of consistency. Peter in Durban, good morning.
Morning, Thulasizwe. Thanks for taking the call. But just 2 quick points, if I could. It seems to me we've reached a point where tendering processes in the country need to be dramatically changed in terms of how we do this tendering to stop this type of thing from happening. We certainly can't carry on the basis of what we're doing at the moment and the amount of money that are involved. I think we all know it's more than 2 billion. The second thing for me is that to stop corruption, intelligence is critical. Mary de Haas has been a guest on your show. I know she's giving evidence at this commission, and she's consistently said that the problem is that we don't have proper intelligence. To fight this, you've got to go underground, you've got to infiltrate the cartels, you've got to collect evidence and catch them red-handed, because it's actually more difficult to actually convict someone for corruption than people might think. And you've got to have solid evidence, and the only way you do that is proper crime intelligence, and of course at the moment, we simply do not have that. That's got to change too.
Yeah. No, thank you for that, Peter. And it seems we've been stuck in this pattern where even efforts to try and rebuild that crime intelligence, in fact, the entirety of our intelligence community, even as we try to do that, it seems new ways are being devised to try and undermine that. So we're almost stuck in a perpetual cycle of rebuilding crime intelligence, rebuilding state security, and all the other elements in the intelligence community. So at what point do we get to a point where we say, right, there was a period when this was being systematically dismantled and taken apart piece by piece. We've now put a stop to that and we've rebuilt such that we start gaining confidence in our intelligence community as a country. We can't keep being in this cycle where we are rebuilding only for more destruction to happen. Mthandeni, is it Mthandeni? Good morning to you,
Mthandeki.
Mthandeki, yes, good morning. Talk to me.
Oh, Thulasizwe.
Yes.
Okay. Good morning.
Surprise.
Listen, Thulasizwe. My only concern right now within the whole range of media in South Africa,
yes,
there was an implication of DA's MPs' involvement in the alleged commission of crime.
Mm-hmm.
None of the main media houses has run with that particular story up to now. 2, there is this particular reference of alleged fraud in the city of Cape Town. None of the major media houses is running with that particular story. But mention one name of the ANC, the media runs with. Why, Thulasizwe?
Which cases are you talking about specifically? Are you talking about Malusi Boy?
The one that has been implicated right now in the Madlanga's commission, Advocate Bredenbach.
That story was there. It was carried. We carried it here on SAFM and SABC News.
Not like the way I've been listening to it, Thulasizwe. Not like the way the limelight put on the DA involved leaders or members. It's not the same way corresponding in the manner in which negative media is done with regard to ANC-educated people.
I hear you.
That is my biggest concern, my friend.
Sure, I hear you, Mthandeki. So let me say, and I'm not going to try and defend anything. Consistency, the call for consistency is warranted, and I accept what you are saying from your perspective. I think with the issue with Breitenbach, I'm just trying to remember now as I talk to you. It was during the testimony of General Mkhwanazi, right? And I'm just trying to remember the exact full-on details. It felt as if this is a theme that will be fully fleshed out a bit later on in the commission. But it was reported upon. I do remember that very clearly. So I hear the point you're making about the prominence of voice and emphasis and outrage. Yes, now I remember. I think the allegation was accessing... No, it wasn't Breitenbach. It was Diane Collar-Barnett, was it not?
No, Breitenbach.
Was it? All right. Let me not confuse myself so early in the morning, but I take the point you're making, Tandeki. Let me look it up and go back and recap what the exact nature. It was at that time when the allegation was about accessing intelligence information and leaking it. Yeah, I remember now, just a little bit of that.
In fact, Thulasizwe, you then hosted her to clarify her reaction to that particular statement.
No, I didn't. Maybe another show, but yeah, I certainly didn't.
No, I'm saying
yeah.
the SAFM. I'm not referring
gotcha.
to that.
I hear
yes.
you. All right, point taken, Mtandeki. A point about consistency consistently comes up in reflections about media reportage on corruption in the country. Thank you for making it once again.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Ready for an update on some of the big issues around the country this morning. Number one, a reminder if you're driving Pretoria this morning, this is the N4, the Bakwena Highway, a police vehicle overturning just at Bonaccord. So if you normally come through from the Mopoli Highway or from Rossen Road and you on-ramp onto the N4, between Rossen Road and Bonaccord, you will sit in a reasonably heavy backlog of traffic. Roger Dyson was closed earlier this morning through Pretoria Industrial Area. It looks like it has now been reopened. So that traffic that was backlogging through sort of Vescopies and the industrial side has all sort of eased up. That's good news. Major delays on the N14. This is the run on the Krugersdorp Highway towards Pretoria. You're going to be asked to queue up there between the R55 and Barakfontein interchange. Same sort of deal on the N14 as you approach Eupheus Road. So if you come up Krugersdorp Highway and then go up Ben Schoeman Highway, you're going to be caught twice this morning. The N12 in from Protea Glen Lenasia towards El Dorado Park. That big queue is starting to ease up. Very crazy traffic around Durban Spaghetti Junction. Crash on the N3 inbound before Sherwood, so that's heavy in from Pavilion. There's also some delays going out through Spaghetti Junction towards Pavilion, and because the crash on the N3 inbound is through Spaghetti Junction, it's having a big impact on the N2 north and south, trying to get through 4 level and turn into that N3 to go into Durban. Now the big delay remains Key Ridge through to Cliffdale. Stationary truck, 1 lane open in the roadworks. Major delays if you're heading out to Pietermaritzburg. If you don't fancy it, travel a bit later once they've cleared that truck and they've got that backlog through. Cape Town heavy into Kuba, get a change. M5 from Kenilworth, N1 coming in from Plattekloof very slow. And if you're on your way through to Killarney for work, there's quite a sizable backlog to work through on Kuberg Road between Plattekloof Road and Belowberg Road Junction. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The only talk radio morning breakfast show that makes sense. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
7 minutes to 8. The EFF leader, Julius Malema, has been found guilty on 5 firearms-related charges, including unlawful possession of a firearm and ammunition and discharging a firearm in public. Delivering judgment in the East London Magistrates Court, Magistrate Toinette Olivier ruled that the state had proved its case beyond a reasonable doubt, rejecting Malema's claim that the weapon was a toy gun loaded with blanks. The charges, you'll remember, stem from the 2018 EFF rally in Mdantsane, where Malema was seen firing shots in the air during the party's 5th birthday celebrations. Malema, who faces a possible minimum 15-year prison sentence, has vowed to appeal, while sentencing has been set down for January 2026. Let's get the perspectives of the legal analyst Elton Hart, who joins us now. Good morning to you, Elton, and thank you for your time. What swung it in the direction of a guilty verdict? My sense, listening to the judgment, it all came down to the question of whether or not there was a real weapon or a toy weapon.
Well, indeed, if you look at the judgment, and I think the magistrate tried to go into detail on every piece of evidence that was tendered before the court. And obviously, for me, the evidence was a little bit circumstantial because there was not, the actual firearm was never brought to court to actually show that this is the gun that actually shot the cartridge. And they said So there was a little bit of disjointedness in the state's evidence, but the magistrate was of the view that given that evidence that is there, and when confronted on cross-examination and even in the examination in chief, that the defense did not put sufficient evidence on the table to say that this evidence that the state is presenting is not true. And obviously we know that the defense or the accused person doesn't have a duty to prove that he's innocent. The state must prove beyond reasonable doubt. But obviously the state got past the hurdle to say that there is prima facie evidence, and then there's some sort of a little onus that goes to the defense to show that although that evidence is there, there's different inferences that can be drawn. And I think how they sort of responded to the state's case, I think that is most probably what sort of led the judge or the magistrate to actually make the decision he made.
And you're right in making the point about the evidence being circumstantial. But tell me what the magistrate then did with that circumstantial evidence that included, from what I could hear, the fact that a weapon of that kind had been signed out for one Larry Mavundla. Signed out from the security company, the discovery of a spent cartridge at the stadium days later, and the magistrate making the point that it had not been found on the morning of the inspection ahead of the event. If those kinds of pieces of evidence, what did the magistrate do with all of those, such that circumstantial as it was enough to lead to this conviction? Elton? All right. Okay, struggling a bit this morning. It seems we've lost Elton Hart there, who was just making the point. Let's see if we can get him back, because I was asking that question about the magistrate does say that, a lot of it is circumstantial evidence. But, in terms of the rules of law, that evidence needs to be supported by all the other proved facts in the case, and the inferences you are seeking to make from circumstantial evidence needs to be the only reasonable inference that can be drawn. Elton, I think we have you back. Talk to that principle, what the magistrate did with the circumstantial evidence, including some of what I was outlining a few minutes ago, the signing out of a firearm to Larry Mavundla, the discovery of a spent cartridge at the Sisa Dugasha Stadium days after or shortly after the event had happened. What did the magistrate do that led her to conclude that, circumstantial as it is enough for a conviction?
Obviously, what she did now, you remember there was video footage. Obviously, there was issues pertaining to the video footage that they say there is problems with the video footage. But if you look at now the video footage that showed that a firearm is discharged by Mr. Malema on the day of the celebration in 2018, then the cartridges was found, although found not in the spot where the alleged offense occurred. And based on that, she said then the only reasonable inference she could draw from that circumstantial evidence is that he fired the firearm and it was there because of where those information, the evidence that was found. That's how she actually dealt with that thing. For me, I think the defense had to go a little bit more on that in order to make sure that to say, listen here, yes, this is there, but maybe there was a breaking chain of how this evidence, it was found later on, and deal with that aspect there. And I think maybe they might have gotten a different verdict, but obviously that's what the ruling says now. And I think if you go on appeal, you might have now an uphill battle to actually deal with these things, because I don't think they dealt with it sufficiently for me in the trial.
And just in terms of the mode of delivery of the judgment itself, Elton, what did you make of that? Going through all the evidence, and it took her 2 days to read everything that happened, including cross-examination and the likes, then coming to the evaluation of the evidence and the law.
I think the judge, she already anticipated that they will appeal her judgment. So what she was trying to make sure she put everything on record to show that everything that was canvassed before court by state and defense is before her. She has considered it. She has looked at it and looked at the probative value of each of the evidence that was provided, be it circumstantial or direct, and see how it fits into the charges or see how it's irrelevant to the charges that's put to the accused person. She made sure that she goes through it and evaluates what value it brings to the table because obviously she knew that the state of the state was built on circumstances. You need to make sure that she takes everything into cognizance, and hence she took her time. And remember now also, evidence has been led for a while now. This is a very old case.
Yeah.
We're approaching like 9 years on this case. So you need to make sure that you cover everything so that they cannot say there was an error in your judgment, that you disregarded certain evidence and you actually became the rubber stamp of the state. Hence you went through that lengthy exercise of making sure she covers her bases.
Well, let's see. The sentencing will happen in January, but it's already been indicated that judgment will be appealed by Mr. Malema. Thank you for your time this morning. Elton Hart is a legal analyst. Let's go live now to N. Musa with the latest news.
Outsurance is in the business of saving you money on your car insurance premium. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
In our top stories, Postbank and Master Services Agreement extended and impact of US government shutdown across America. Good morning. The South African Social Security Agency has confirmed it has extended the notice period for the termination of the Master Services Agreement with Postbank for an additional 3 months. The confirmation comes after Postbank announced the agreement between the two entities remains firmly in place. The termination of the agreement, where Postbank managed the cash collection services for social grants, was to have taken place at the end of September following various concerns and allegations. At the time, SASSA assured beneficiaries that grant payments will continue to be made. The agency's Andy Leshona explains further.
The South African Social Security Agency can confirm that it has extended the notice period of the termination of the Master Services Agreement with Postbank for further 3 months. This decision has been made to allow the Executive Authority time and space to deliberate on various issues from the two entities and give guidance. SASSA would also like to reiterate its commitment to putting the interests of the millions of its beneficiaries first, whilst also ensuring improved customer service.
The Modimolle Regional Court in Limpopo is today expected to make a ruling on whether to declare a trial within a trial on the statements made by one of the witnesses. The state's fourth witness in the case of theft of more than $500,000 at President Cyril Ramaphosa's Palapala farm has given two contradicting statements. In one statement, the witness indicates he was given $30, and in the second one, he was paid 7,000 Rand by accused number 1, Emanuela David, to transport him and other suspects to Benoni in Gauteng. The court will make a ruling virtually. State Prosecutor Keteni Munyai made an application for a trial within a trial due to the contradicting statements.
I'll further submit that is the reason why, in the end, they say that statement, when it's tendered, it should not be tendered to prove the contents of the statement, but just to show that there are contrary versions. In that regard, Your Worship, the state would like to then request the court to direct that a hearing, trial within trial be held so that the state can use evidence to prove that the statement was made by the witness.
Murder-accused Katiso Molefe is expected to head to the High Court in Johannesburg today to appeal the decision by the Alexandra Magistrates Court to deny him bail. Molefe is accused of masterminding the 2022 murder of Oupa Sifoka, known as DJ Somebody, and two of his bodyguards. He faces several charges, including murder, being in possession of unlicensed firearms, and conspiracy to commit murder. Neria Tlakotsa reports.
The Alexandra Magistrates Court rejected Katiso Molefe's request for bail in August, arguing that he failed to prove exceptional circumstances required for him to be released. During the application, the state told the court that he is the mastermind behind the fatal shooting of Opa Sefoka, also known as DJ Somebody. The businessman, however, maintained that the evidence against him is speculation, and he denied being a flight risk.
The first US government shutdown in 7 years is starting to have a significant impact on non-essential services. Hundreds of thousands of people are staying at home without pay as the stalemate between Republicans and Democrats over a new spending plan continues. The BBC's David Willis reports.
With the American government now officially out of money, non-essential services are already starting to grind to a halt. Essential workers such as air traffic controllers and airport security screeners will remain on duty but won't be paid until the shutdown ends. 750,000 federal employees are expected to be placed on furlough, a kind of enforced leave without pay. And President Trump has threatened to turn many of those furloughs into mass firings.
And finally, state media in Morocco say 2 people have been killed while attempting to storm a police station near the coastal city of Agadir. The deaths come as nationwide youth demonstrations continue. Morocco's Interior Ministry says more than 400 people were arrested yesterday and nearly 300 injured during rallies demanding reforms to the public health and education sectors. Local police used firearms to defend themselves. Recapping the top story, the South African Social Security Agency has confirmed it extended the notice period for the termination of the Master Services Agreement with Postbank for an additional 3 months. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. You could spend 10 minutes hunting for the TV remote, or get a 10-minute quote from Outsurance that could save you thousands on your car insurance. For her 2024 Kia Picanto, 52-year-old Janine now only pays 561 Rand a month. And for her 2025 Jetour Dashing, 29-year-old Sana pays just 796 Rand a month. Ready to get more out of your car insurance? SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Outsurance, licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
It's a very good morning to you. In your SFM Sports Headlines, rugby, the Springbok veteran Bongi Mbonambi warns the Boks can't underestimate Argentina, and this is ahead of Saturday's Rugby Championship decider, all happening at Twickenham. And in soccer news, Coach Hugo Bruges faces a crucial squad call-up as Bafana chased the World Cup dream. We'll have details just before 8:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic. Good morning. Still very slow on Pretoria's N4, Bakwena Highway on the run through towards Durhampool Plaza. A police vehicle involved in the crash earlier this morning between Rosslyn Road and Bonaccord. So if you're on that section, it is quite slow. Queuing pressure, N14 north into Eupheus Road. N14 Krugersdorp Highway, heavy backlogs from the R55 up towards Brockfontein. If you're on your way to Pretoria, that's heavy as well. N3 still queuing from London Road, Alex, all the way up to the roadworks at Buccleuch. And the N12 coming out of Lenasia, Protea Glen, starting to ease up on the run in towards El Dorado Park. Major delays around Spaghetti Junction, Durban side today. A crash on the N3 inbound before Sherwood. That's causing a delay coming through from the Paradise Valley. Well, from Pavilion is where you'll pick up the queue. Pavilion through 4 level down to Sherwood. Behind that, the N2 south is queuing from Inanda Road, and north queuing up from the M7 just to get through 4 level and to get into the N3 inbound. Also outbound is quite slow towards Pavilion, and a major backlog between Shongweni and Hammersdale due to a breakdown just past the Cliffdale exit this morning. If you're on your way to Pietermaritzburg, maybe go later. Cape Town, M5 north to Kuba, get a change, just slow. N1 inbound to the interchange, back from around N1 City. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
It's just gone 9 minutes after 8 on this Thursday. It's great to be in your company. Welcome to it. This is the third hour of the Morning Brief on SAFM 104 to 107. We are leading the conversations that move us. Let me read some of those conversations that move us in the form of the WhatsApp messages that you've been sending me in the last while. Let me take one from Robert Cele in Germiston, who says, before 1994, we were fighting for equal rights and justice. But what we have now is the opposite. Political leaders put themselves above the law and are untouchable. Malema is an example, says Robert Cele. Viva equal rights and justice. And that is Robert Cele's message to all of us this morning. And then Sipo says, Tepo Khobe had to go to a Santon conference to repeat a Standard 6 geography class discussion on transport pollution. Tshwane, Jozi and Egoruleni municipalities are taking up the chunk of the city's roads and dedicate them to a bus rapid transport. Good thinking. Note, Gautrain buses are a waste of diesel as they are empty all the time. Away with Gautrain, away. Phambili to Metro Rail and taxis phambili, says Sipo there. Of course, he's talking about Tepo Khobe, who is the CEO of the Gautrain Management Agency, and I'll be talking to him shortly, just talking about what came out of that, mobility summit in Sandton yesterday and concerns about gridlock really on roads in Gauteng, and it seems to be getting worse and worse with each passing year. I'll read more of your messages and take more of your WhatsApp voice notes a bit later on, but for now let's get into it, the third hour of the Morning Brief on this Thursday.
My name is Jabu Mahlangu, aka Shuffle the Pack, aka 1 hour swing. I start my day with a short prayer. I give hugs to my kids. And I'm very playful. I love all the genre, but Kwaito is number one. Kwaito is our culture. About the late Mendoza, about the late Mapaputsi, and I could relate. And it's in us focus. Ivory Coast for me, it was a beautiful country. I know Utabanye Batandes in Indabo, Mauritius, Nana, there's window is a love. SABC Sport, this is the main one. Wonkela Manyama channel, Azalwe, because of SABC.
Catch Jabu Shuffle Mahlangu unpacking the beautiful game in a lingo you love on match days. Live on Latuma. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply. You are listening to the Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
13 minutes after 8. Let's talk human rights now, shall we? And especially as they relate to law enforcement. The Mining Affected Communities United in Action, Makua, says it acknowledges the South African Human Rights Commission's long overdue decision to convene its national inquiry into artisanal mining, the Stilfontein crisis, as well as Operation Vala Umkoti, and that national inquiry happening between the 1st and the 3rd of October. However, Makua says while it welcomes the fact that the South African Human Rights Commission has finally taken a public step on these matters, the organization remains skeptical and concerned that the inquiry may serve more as a shield for the state than as a genuine pursuit of justice, accountability, and human rights. Just for context, the Human Rights Commission says its national inquiry will be threefold, focusing on the policy framework around artisanal mining, the impact of artisanal and illegal mining on human rights of surrounding communities such as Stilfontein and others, as well as the scope and tactics employed during Operation Vala Umkoti. Let's speak to Christopher Rutledge, who is Executive Director at Makua. Good morning to you and thank you for your time. So it's almost hard to believe that it's been a year since Stilfontein was under the spotlight, and we were talking almost daily about Operation Vala Umgodi. Now this national inquiry. How important is this inquiry, and what will it find in your view?
Good morning, Thulasizwe, and thank you very much. Yes, indeed. I think that really is for us sits at the heart of this question. The fact that we're almost a year down the line. And we are concerned that, the Human Rights Commission is essentially set up as the agency, the Chapter 9 institution, which is tasked with protecting the human rights of people and ensuring that where there are violations, that appropriate actions are taken to redress those violations. And I think that's where we then find this difficulty with the process that has unfolded with the Human Rights Commission. I want to on the outset say that we fully appreciate the Human Rights Commission, the people that work there, and this is by no means a criticism of the people. It is also a criticism of the structure of the constitutional setup of how the Human Rights Commission has been set up and how it frames itself. In its terms of reference now, it frames itself as merely, like you say, this threefold thing. Yeah. It hasn't centered its role as the protector of human rights. When this thing initially started last year, the Human Rights Commission didn't take action. They are empowered to go into any site and to ensure that human rights are not being violated. They failed to do that at the time this crisis was unfolding, despite the fact that we went to court multiple times, we went to them multiple times, and we presented evidence to show that, in fact, there is human rights violations occurring. We have now shown and we presented evidence to the Commission to show that the state lied to the courts, it lied to the public, and they knew that the results of their actions would result in death. And I find it extremely difficult to understand how a constitutional democracy, how a society can simply accept that almost 100 people were killed, and yet nobody is going to be held to account. Yeah. The Commission is not, in its terms of reference, said that it is going to hold anybody to account. It mainly says we are going to investigate these things and we're essentially going to offer suggestions on how to improve policy. Yeah. That is not acceptable. It flies in the face of the purpose of why the Human Rights Commission was set up. And we think there needs to be a conversation about exactly what the Human Rights Commission is there for. Because with a budget of over 200 million rand, we cannot just have a commission that is going to record events and not act.
So part of your critique is that it's policy heavy, the framing of this inquiry. It should have centered human rights. What balance should it have struck in as far as the question of human rights is concerned? Because it mentions the impact on the human rights of communities where artisanal and unlawful and illegal mining happens on the one hand, but you also wanted to center the question of human rights in the operations like Operation Vala Umgodi. So what picture would emerge if it struck that balance between those two sets of human rights?
Yes. Now, look, just to frame our concerns, like I say, when the event happened, we called on the Human Rights Commission to act right there and then. They didn't. Then eventually they said they're going to have a hearing in 3 months' time. I think they set it for April or May. Then in April, they just simply cancelled it at the last minute. And then we've postponed to where we are in October. And when we now come to October, the Human Rights Commission released the terms of reference of this hearing 3 days ago. And in that, we have noticed that they have actually shifted away from the initial framing, which said that the violations that occurred at Stilfontein would be at the center of this investigation, and that from there we would then delve into policy. They have completely changed that framing now. They've taken out the focus on the violations of human rights in Stilfontein, and they've made it an addendum, a secondary issue, if you will, something that is an afterthought. We'll consider that, but only in relation to policy. It should be the other way around. We'll consider the human rights issues, and then we will feed into policy. So we have developed a strong critique on this, and we've engaged the Human Rights Commission on it. And it is for us quite telling that the time frame that it's taken, together with shifting the terms of reference to be more anomalous, to just have this broad brushstroke rather than to focus on what exactly happened, who lied to the courts, who gave the orders to have these people killed, and what consequences will follow from that.
All right.
None of that is in the hearings focus at the moment.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time. Christopher Rutledge is Executive Director of Makua, weighing in there on that Commission of, National Inquiry by the South African Human Rights Commission into artisanal and illegal mining and the policy issues and human rights implicated therein.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
All right, let me take one or two voice notes. Let me start with one that has to do with Eskom, followed by a few reflections on the verdict in the State versus Julius Malema matter out in East London.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Thulasizwe, I think the one person we need to congratulate with regard to Eskom's profit margin is President Ramaphosa, because he has achieved his mandate of Tumamina by making sure that they take from the poor to get profit, a classic capitalist. Thank you.
I was about to say there's a rare compliment for President Ramaphosa until you introduced that twist. I did not see that twist coming. Thank you for that.
Good morning, Thulas and your team. This is Sakile Nsogwini from Komshabyalingo. Thulas, Malema should not decry his guilty verdicts because he had agreed that he discharged the firearm. Thank you.
Good morning, Thulasizwe Simelane. Concerning the Malema issue, did they find the gun? Why is the magistrate saying the gun was loaded when they did not find the gun? The issue is, what type of a gun did they find, if there was a gun?
Yeah, all right. I think you need to listen to the judgment as a whole. Well, it's kind of difficult, but yeah, it's tough because it was over 3 days, 7 hours each day, the magistrate going through each and every level of detail in the hearings. But towards the end, she grapples with the questions that you are asking. So towards, the last day, which was yesterday, about an hour or an hour and a half or thereabouts, that's where really the crux of the evaluation of what the database of weapons kept by that security company looked like, how it was inspected, and how there was a gun that had been signed out to Larry Mavundla, and the version was that it had been left in Gauteng, which she disputes and says, circumstantially, you signed out a weapon that you were going to take to use whenever needed, and a weapon of that kind is then seen at Sisa Dugashe. It can only lead to one inference, that this is exactly the same weapon. She was quite impressed, just sharing with you, she was quite impressed, was the magistrate, with the testimony. I think it was the state, the ballistics expert that was called by the state. She spoke glowingly about that particular expert and said he's a super expert, and on the other hand dismissed what the expert called by the defense had to say. And also, lastly, let me mention the magistrate in the course of the judgment, and I'm just retelling you this, I'm not taking a view on any of it in any way, but she says Mr. Malema was evasive on questions that were pertinent, according to her. instead of answering pertinent questions, he was evasive. In fact, he went as far as to say some of his answers were entertaining but did not answer the pertinent questions. So that's just part of the evaluation of the evidence that was before her. Just giving you context, you form your own view. Let me take this one on the Matlanga Commission.
Hey, Tulas and all SAFM listeners, a very good morning. I wonder, Tulas, whether the Matlanga Commission has contacted a former police minister, Nathi Mthethwa, before he died. That's a real question that could have led for the country to understand or to connect the dots as to why the minister decided to take his own life. That's Andile from Stagsbraid in the Eastern Cape, near to borders.
Thulasizwe, I fully agree with one of your listeners from Limpopo who said, let them die a painful death, or let them continue committing suicide is their judgment. I agree with him.
All right, let me take a call from Jabu in Joburg. Good morning to you, Jabu.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. How are you?
Very well. How are you? Please go ahead.
I'm all right. Thanks, Thulasizwe, for taking my call.
Sure.
Thulasizwe, I'm sitting here getting worried with regard to the Malema matter because I'm seeing the history repeating itself here.
Mm-hmm.
You remember the young man in Eastern Cape? His name is Wandile Lungisa, or Andile Lungisa.
Andile Lungisa, yes.
Yeah, that young man had the case where he hit one of the DA councillors with a water jar.
I remember that.
On the head. And that young man was sentenced to prison without an alternative of a fine.
Mm-hmm.
And mind you, that he found that jar in that council chambers. And then he did not bring it to the scene or to the venue. He found it there, then he just used it. Under normal circumstances, that thing was going to be called common assault.
Yes.
But guess what? The young man was future career in politics and leadership, in contributing in the society, was shut down because of that judgment of sending the young man directly into prison. Now we've got Malema here. I am a comrade myself, meaning I am involved in politics myself.
Yeah.
I've attended several funerals of comrades and leaders. I have seen people discharging heavy firearms in funerals. And nobody has ever taken a veto and sent those people to court. But because it's Julius Malema, who is a young man running his political party, somebody somewhere somehow is hell-bent of destroying that young man. I'm not justifying that he did a wrong thing by discharging the firearms in front of the people. But I've seen many heavy firearms being rifles, by the way, being discharged in funerals.
Gotcha.
There is even a video recently, I think it was somewhere in Eastern Cape. Young people, they're discharging firearms in the middle of the crowd.
Jabu?
But nobody is taking them serious. Because it's Malema, they want to destroy the young man. I'm not an EFF member, by the way.
Yes,
but I don't want people to go around destroying other people's careers or futures like that because they've got power.
Point well made and well taken. Thank you for that, Jabu. That's Jabu in Joburg weighing in on that verdict in the Julius Malema matter. Of course, sentencing is scheduled for early next year, and a lot of factors, of course, will come into it and weigh into that decision in terms of what sentence will be imposed.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
It's a very good morning to you. Let's kick things off with the rugby story, where the Springboks are bracing for a fierce rugby championship decider at Twickenham come Saturday. Hooker Bongi Mbonambi is urging caution. Back in the squad after months on the sidelines, the veteran says Argentina will be hurting after last week's 67-30 thrashing in Durban, and warns that a week is a long time in rugby. Mbonambi admits he's playing for his Springbok future, but insists the squad remains united, with the focus firmly on making history by lifting back-to-back rugby championship titles for the first time. Let's go to rugby now again. The Lions are out to bounce back in the United Rugby Championship after their opening loss to Cardiff. Defence coach Jacques Fourie says the clash against the Zebra in Parma on Sunday won't be taken lightly.
Yeah, of the zebra sides, the Italian sides play with a lot of passion. I think the last 4 years since the beginning that we've played them, we know they're a side that never gives up. I think the first time we played them here, we were ahead with 35-0 halftime, and they came back very strong. So they will always fight, they will always play. They're a side that plays with a lot of confidence, and we just need to take that confidence away very early on.
Let's go to soccer. Bafana coach Hugo Broos faces his biggest test today. He names the final squad for South Africa's World Cup qualifiers after FIFA docked the team 3 points for fielding ineligible midfielder Teboho Mokoena. Bafana slipped to second in Group C, level with Benin on 14 points, but trailing on goal difference. They must now beat Zimbabwe on Friday and Rwanda next Tuesday to keep their dreams of reaching the 2026 World Cup alive. More soccer now. The Magesi FC coach John Maduka has challenged his players to rise to the occasion as they prepare for Sunday's Carling knockout clash with AmaZulu. After last season's fairy tale run to the trophy, Maduka says the team must prove it's no fluke and, more importantly, start picking up points in the Premiership where they've struggled for form.
Absolutely right. I mean, this is a cup game. It can give us also confidence, to the league, like you said. There's so many games that we've been unlucky in the league, not winning them, but, after a good performance, but in losing them. So this can also help us, each and every game that you play, helps to give confidence to the players, start believing themselves that they can be able to win the match. So this one helps us a lot, for us to be able to win. If we go out there, we win the game against AmaZulu, it gives us confidence going to the league games so that we can start also getting those points that we need.
And finally, tennis. The Italian star Jannik Sinner clinched the China Open title in Beijing, defeating the American teenager Lerner Tin 6-2, 6-2 in the final. That's your sport. Volley back at 12:30 with John Herica for more sport on SAFM. I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, the grandson of former President Nelson Mandela, Mandla, has released a video saying he has been abducted by the Israeli state. He's part of the global Sumud Flotilla campaign, which is heading to Gaza to deliver humanitarian aid. The bail application of two Humansdorp senior secondary school learners charged with the murder of 18-year-old Luyolo Wakeni is expected to continue at the Humansdorp Magistrates Court in the Eastern Cape. And the South African Social Security Agency has confirmed it extended the notice period for the termination of the Master Services Agreement with Postbank for an additional 3 months. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Just some delays at around Rustenburg to keep an eye on and watch out for if you're heading that way today. Crashed a little bit earlier right in the central Rustenburg area on the N4 around Dr. Morocco Street. So just some slow-moving traffic in that area. The N4 into Pretoria this morning. The earlier crash scene just coming through towards Bonnecourt. Traffic does seem to be moving through there better than it was earlier. Breakdown M1 North at Rivonia. Delays from Randburg and still relentlessly backed up on that N3 North from Alex up into the double lane closure at Buccleuch. Durban, couple of breakdowns in the way now. The N2 South after get a road breakdown there on your way slowly to Spaghetti Junction. Another breakdown at Pavilion Mall causing a backlog out from Spaghetti Junction to Pinetown. And rivaling the country's biggest delay this morning is the N3 from just after Shongweni through Key Ridge and up to Cliffdale. Single lane section into a breakdown which has been there all morning. What a nightmare that is on mornings like this. You just want to get up to Pietermaritzburg and you've got a big backlog of traffic to work through. Cape Town, what we're seeing this morning is just generally lighter volumes. I think that's something to do with the impending school holiday break. Maybe more schools are sort of on break all the time, but it is lighter with the exception of the N1. That's going slow from Platterkloof down in towards City Centre. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
One more time for today. Good morning to you in Dowling. Let's talk sentiment in the manufacturing sector. You are saying that that has improved.
That's right, Thulasizwe. And this is according to the APSA PMI, which rose
2.7 points to 52.2 in September, returning to expansionary territory for the second time this year. Now, the third quarter average also upbeat, climbing to 50.8 from 45.4 in Q2. While this signals somewhat of a recovery in manufacturing, the rebound has been uneven, with weak export demand and U.S. tariffs weighing on growth. When looking at the print, domestic demand is driving the improvement, with the business activity index jumping just over 12 points to 57.9. And new sales orders rising 8.8 points to 56.1, their strongest levels since last October. Now, supplier deliveries also improved modestly to 54.8, reflecting easing logistical pressures. But the employment index fell to 42.8 as firms remain cautious on hiring, and purchasing price index increased to 61.7, highlighting ongoing input cost pressures despite stable fuel prices and exchange rates. What's worrying when looking at the print is the long-term sentiment, which has weakened. The 6-month outlook fell from 56.8 to 49.2, also underscoring uncertainty about sustaining the recovery we're currently seeing. Overall, economists say the PMI points to a fragile but positive recovery in the local manufacturing sector.
Something about your next story reminds me of the age-old South Africanism, and the question: is mining a sunset or a sunrise?
Yes.
How many times have you heard that question?
You know what? I might not have heard it as much as you, but listen, I've heard it.
Such a rhetorical question, as South Africanism. So tell me why government is opening up a funding round to support local junior miners.
We're seeing this happen because of the increased demand in particularly critical minerals. And so government has opened the second window of its junior mining exploration fund, offering 240 million rands to support local junior miners in finding new mineral deposits. This initiative was launched in 2023 by the Council for Geoscience and the IDC. The 400 million rand fund helps eligible miners with prospecting or mining rights finance activities ranging from drilling and geophysical surveys to feasibility studies and environmental assessments. Now, the first funding window awarded 160 million rands to 8 projects, and the current round closes at the end of the month. The latest funding push targets critical minerals, as I had mentioned, including copper, lithium, titanium, and uranium. We're also seeing gold being thrown in there as well, and comes amid years of weak exploration investment in the country, which dropped from over 6 billion rands around the 2000s to less than 1 billion rands last year. Now, with global demand for copper expected to rise more than 40% by 2040 and gold prices surging nearly 50% since December, analysts say boosting exploration is seen as vital for the country to remain competitive in the growing global market. So I guess it's not seen as much of a sunset industry anymore.
Yeah, sunset versus sunrise. Lastly, Ntaoleng, give us a sense of the kind of trading day we can expect on this Thursday.
So local markets are poised to start the day in the high, and it's no surprise, really benefiting from the higher gold price we are seeing, which is edging towards $3,900. Company news quite thin, so traders will be tracking global news. Then over in the currency scene, a soft dollar on the back of the U.S. government shutdown and Fed rate cut bets has boosted the rand. While it's retraced some of its gains, it's still resilient at 17.20 to the greenback this morning. Oil staging a bit of a rebound after hitting a 4-month low yesterday due to concerns about the market being in oversupply. Brent is currently trading at $65.40 per barrel. And then back to equities, U.S. futures are mixed, with traders assessing the fallout on the back of that shutdown while digesting the latest private sector jobs report. Lastly, in Asia, markets on track to close in the green today, boosted by gains in tech stocks.
All right, Ndauling, thank you for that. Ndauling Lichela, having kept you updated on business, economics and the markets over the last while, the last 2.5 hours actually.
With the ever-changing financial landscape, it can be difficult to make sense of all the moves at times. Join me, Jimmy Moyaha, on the SAFM Market Update with MoneyWeb, Mondays to Thursdays, 6 to 7 p.m, as we break down the key market trends, top financial stories, and smart investment insights all in one place. It's everything you need to stay financially informed and ahead of the curve.
Thulasizwe Simelane is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube and X at SAFM Radio.
Hey, kulate ngoku, kulate. So say vala manje. All right. Imagine a future where drones don't just buzz randomly overhead, but actually zip along dedicated highways in the sky. That's the vision laid out in the new draft strategy from the Transport Department, which is pushing for stricter rules around drones in this country. Just like we RICA our SIM cards, the plan would see every drone registered and linked to its owner, making them easier to track and control. Officials say the system could unlock new possibilities for logistics, agriculture, and even security. But it also raises questions about privacy, enforcement, and whether it will really work better than SIM card registration did. So let's speak to Colin Msibi, National Transport Department spokesperson. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. What is the mischief you seek to address, or perhaps the advantage you seek to infuse in as far as drones are concerned in this country with this draft air freight strategy?
Well, thanks, Thulasizwe. Thanks for having us. I think it's important to provide the context. The issue of drones, I think, was brought in as amongst about 11 other areas that we've identified to boost the air freight, because you'd recall that the focus has always been on the freight rail and the freight that moves on the road as well. So this is part of the air freight strategy which we've gazetted. There's been consultations with the stakeholders. So in particular, what we are saying is that we could introduce the drones to be able to transport some of the goods. Especially the focus is on the first and the last mile leg in terms of the transportation of freight. So in other words, we would see a situation where we create the highways where the drones are supposed to be traveling. But it involves a lot of things. It involves the issue of regulations, which has to be done by CAA. But it also involves the ATNS, because there's so many rules in terms of how high can for instance, the drone. The limit is about 400. Beyond 400, it's then the aircraft, which can go from 400 up to 36,000 meters above sea level. So these are all the things that have to be taken into account. But the strategy simply says we could use drones as one of the modes to be able to transport the goods, that we are able to increase the tonnage that is being used that is being transported on the aircraft.
By extension of what you are saying, Colin, that this is but one aspect of the air freight strategy, it means there are, of course, naturally and quite obviously, other elements. What enablers are there? Because I imagine that the other elements talk to traditional air freight in the form of traditional, ordinary aircraft, but engaged as opposed to the business of passengers engaged in the air freight business. How much demand do you think there is in the country for more air freight services, and what enablers would this strategy put in place for investment in that space?
Indeed, I think it is very important what we are raising. Part of the biggest issue, we need to have an infrastructure for air freight at our airports, at the network of airports that we have. Currently,
King Shaka is the best in terms of the freight infrastructure. So we've got to create the infrastructure. For instance, one of the worst is actually the OR Tambo, of which the AXA, they have said that they're going to invest quite a lot of money in creating the infrastructure for air freight. So we've got to create that infrastructure, especially from what we call the primary airport, which would be King Shaka, the Cape Town airport, as well as the OR Tambo. And then there's secondary ones, of course, which also would need to ensure that there is infrastructure there. But at the moment, they are feeding into the primary airports. Secondly, there's issues of the value chain. You would recall that, the issue of air freight, it doesn't only involve the aircraft. There's also the road transportation, the freight forwarders. So there has to be an integration of sorts. Try and improve that integration. It's already there, but I think a lot can be done in terms of improving that. Then the usage, for instance, of the military airports. The military airports are underutilized, but we're saying, for instance, the cargo that has to do with the humanitarian aspect of things, as well as the disaster relief initiatives, we could use those military airports to be able to transport that kind of cargo. And the other issue, the aspect which is quite important, is the issue of the air services. And I think the air services at the moment, the main focus is the issue of the passenger. So when you issue the license for the airlines, the focus is mainly about passengers. But how do we then ensure that we use that to be able to also boost the kind of freight that moves with the cost? You see, the freight also follows the passenger. So we've got to boost and ensure that we increase. Our target is about 1.2 million tonnage by 2029. At the moment, we're sitting at about 350 to 400,000 tons.
So it's quite ambitious. It's quite an ambitious uptick, and within a time frame that's not so long, Colin. Lastly, though, let me come back to this issue about registration of drones. What do you seek to address? What is the situation currently that you are seeking to address? And importantly, how enforceable and practical is it, taking into consideration some concerns that we've seen, for instance, when Joburg wanted registration of all security cameras facing public spaces, there was pushback around issues of privacy and the likes. Have you factored all of those in?
Yes, these are suggestions that are in the strategy. Obviously, the devil is in the detail in terms of how do we then implement. So, but what we are saying is that we've got to see how we can use the drones to transport the goods. It's happening, for instance, in Rwanda. It's happening in Australia. What is it that is stopping us from doing it? At the current moment, the drones that are being regulated by CAA, I think they go up to about 20 kgs. So, with the transportation of freight, we could start small and go obviously bigger. So the issue is then that we've got to start somewhere. And starting somewhere, it also means that we've got to create the corridors where these drones, because remember, there's dangers that are associated with this. It can drop from the sky and somebody can be injured. So part of what we are envisaging is that, for instance, we could use the highways where they could then travel these drones. For instance, from the OR Tambo, we could possibly use the R21, maybe use the servitude there, the side of the road, so that it doesn't. So there's a number of issues that we've got to take into account when we create those corridors. But secondly, as I said, ATNS, they need to integrate the drone into the airspace, so that it then becomes part. Then they set these rules as to how high you can go and all sorts of things. But also we are talking about the drones that can go beyond the line of sight. In other words, it could be the drone that could go up to 100 kilometers, so where we have to monitor it on screen. So all those things we've got to be factored in and how they are regulated, which is where CAA has to come into play as well in terms of how the regulations should happen. But the regulations are not there for the air freight side. That is what we are saying we need to introduce. It's only for the smaller tons at the moment.
All right, Colin, thank you for that. That's Colin Msibi, who is National Transport Department spokesperson. The draft air freight strategy for South Africa 2025 is out for public comment. So look out for it, look it up, and do weigh in during this period while it's out for you to make inputs and influence how it eventually shapes up.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
We told you earlier this morning about protesting at Berlin down on the Eastern Cape N2 section between King Williamstown and Dunsani. Traffic on our real-time flow seems to be moving okay through there, so it looks like that has been dealt with this morning. Joburg side, a reminder of the N3. The roadworks continue into Buccleuch. It is heavy still. It's the heaviest backlog that we've got around the Gauteng region at the moment. Traffic from Alex all the way out to Buccleuch. It's an all-day backlog that you sit through there. It does ease as the volumes ease, but you've got to get sort of mid-morning, early afternoon, late morning, any time of the day, really, up through Buccleuch. Make sure you've got plenty of time. Don't be surprised to hit backlogs there. Breakdown at Rivonia Road, so the M1 from Four Ways up to Sunninghill stays busy. Pretoria easing up, just that Mopani Highway slow still into Esky and Petheli. Oh, and there's still some delays on that N4 approaching the Bonaccord exit, where that Tshwane Metro police vehicle was involved in a prang earlier this morning. Probably the biggest delay around the country is the run to Pietermaritzburg leaving Durban. It's massive today. It's a breakdown, one lane open at Cliffdale. Been there all morning. Very heavy issue backlog. Just after Shongweni, you'll pick up that queue through all the lane restrictions and working your way ultimately into a single lane to get past it. Breakdown on the N2 South after Umgena Road, so quite a bit of pressure there as well. Cape Town easing up. Hasn't been the busiest Thursday on record. I think just with the impending school holidays, more and more schools are already perhaps closed, so that takes a bit of the volume off the roads. The Koeberg Road down into N1 highways busy. Marine Drive queuing through Pardon Island, and the M5 still a bit sluggish coming through Rondebosch to join the N2 inbound. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Let me read two messages for you and then take the calls that I have lined up, as well as round it off nicely with the voice notes. Mzi in PE. PE is Gabecha Mzi, man. Today it's Gabecha, okay? Mzi says, morning family. The last caller, Njabulo, demonstrates just how arrogant and gullible our politicians are, believing they are above the law. Both Andile Lungisa and Malema broke the law and are criminals in suits, period, says Mzi out in PE. Let me take one from Temba in Rustenburg. Temba says, there is nothing more painful than being an immigrant in South Africa, whether legal or illegal. I am feeling deep pain right now, though I am legal in this country. One day God will hear my prayers, says Temba out in Rustenburg, reflecting on some of the conversations that happen on a daily basis. So yeah, you can only imagine if you are in that position, especially if you are documented legally in the country, and every day the rhetoric moves, one side to the other. It just swings from one end to the other. One that's about, proper law enforcement, but sometimes you hear comments that I can only imagine can be problematic for you if you are in that position. So that message coming through from Temba in Rustenburg. Let me take a call from everybody's fave, Putana in Rosebank. Good morning.
Good morning, my brother. Good morning.
Good morning. Please go ahead.
I'm not going to talk bad about Natim Tetra, but I'm just going to complete his legacy because the ANC thing praises him. He's safe there. He was safe up until he died in France, because France has 70% level of safety. We are ravaged by crime in South Africa, and he was assigned to help us to solve the crime. Instead, what he did, he assigned the special branch member, Richard Mdluli, to be the head of intelligence. What he did, he used the slush fund as a petty case. We are destroyed by crime now. Thank you to Natim Tata and thank you to the ANC. By the way, they protected Mdluli up until to the end We were helped by NGO for Mzulu to go to jail.
Yeah. All right, Putana, thank you for that. I think it's a fair reflection on the man's legacy. He was a public figure. He did serve in government, and you will hear reflections that are both positive as well as those that are critical in the manner that Putana has done. Lazarus in Free State, good morning.
Good morning, my brother. How are you, Chula?
Very well, how are you?
No, very well. Thank you. Chula, this is just a short and sweet, ne? I was thinking a different thing of a 2 billion rand that was stolen. Ne?
Yes.
You see, these people, they don't see the damage that they've caused. There are people that were running businesses that were, they were supplying medical equipment at those various hospitals and stuff. Some people, they've lost their business because they couldn't pay their suppliers or the banks. That's one element.
Yeah.
And they've created unemployment because people now they're sitting in internships and wherever where people are because the businesses are closed. So that's just one element that I realized to say, you know what?
Yeah.
I think this thing has really done a serious damage in terms of economy because now people are not employed because people are working because of their greediness. Now people are sitting at home.
You know,
so
Lazarus,
that's just one angle that I was thinking about.
Yes, you know the point you're making, Lazarus. It also struck me as well because there were so many themes. I suppose I didn't highlight it. It must have been nice to be that someone who can text message someone to say, please expedite the payment of my invoice when countless ordinary SMMEs.
Yes, I was actually coming to that because if you could have heard yesterday, you were saying the Kuruleni is not paying people on time. Normally, the government policy says that people should be paid within 15 or 30 days. Now, imagine if you're running a company and you're not being paid for a year or two. What will happen to you?
And in fact, I'm saying must have been nice as if it's in the past. It must be nice now because what we're talking about is what has been exposed. Who knows what else is still happening? Anyway, Lazarus, thank you for making that point. It really is painful. It really does hurt. Let me go to Alba out in Sky City. Alba, you still want to reflect on the conversation we had yesterday with Professor Lauren Landau?
Awushen Papa Simelane.
Hey, ifukile Papa.
Ifukile.
Yeah, ifukile.
Thank you. Yesterday, after listening to the professor speaking regarding immigration and everything, and then I started wondering, mostly because I started to think how many people I've had that have been your guests there that have came in to give in because they're experts in their field to come and give their how they see things. And then, but I started to wonder why is it that most of the time towards elections you'll find that some of your guest speakers when they come they'll tell us that people keep on voting the ANC because there is no alternative. And then some of the economists, when they come in to reflect on the economy, they'll tell you that the reason people are unemployed is because people are not skilled. But even where I am currently, there are people outside there looking for jobs who are very skilled. It's like some of these people, to me, it seems as if you give them a day ahead, say that tomorrow you'll be speaking on the radio, it's like they go out there and sell themselves and say to the highest bidder so that they give them money so that they can come and speak and do their bidding on the radio.
Yeah, Alba, I hear you. I don't necessarily believe that to be the case with the majority of, the credible academics that we speak to. But here's where I'm going to take the point that has been made by not only you, but many others. Perhaps it's important to mix and balance academic research with just a bit more, walk the ground and live some of the experience, the lived experience of individuals. I think that's also an important takeaway from this conversation we've been having, without casting aspersions on some of the people who are courteous enough to share of their expertise.
But the thing, still on that, because they're educated, maybe because I ran away from Standard 1 while I was still at school. Because to me, it's like they're living somewhere else, not in South Africa. And then many times you call professors, but I end up wondering what is the use of a person having a PhD if they can't do a research, a minor research?
Absolutely. Alba, thank you for that. I've got to thank you for that. I think there's enough there for people to reflect, people in academia, without obviously casting aspersions, which is what I was cautioning about. But that lived reality versus what the books tell you, I think that's the big takeaway that I've picked up from some of the reflections of the last 2 days. Let me take one or two voice notes.
I think you can just let your previous caller know there's a major difference between alleged corruption of the DA and actual corruption that people have admitted to and proof of. And now the guys are saying, yeah, but there's one case of alleged corruption. No, man, this is one-sided.
Hi, Thulasizwe. You know, the fact that you have to go and look it up and verify which or what he's talking about regarding the DA is proof enough that it's not covered equally. Now, the fact that the ANC is the ANC and corruption is their middle name, and there has to be a robust and aggressive tone when dealing with them and covering their stories. But the fact is the DA is not giving the same. Thank you, Ibrahim, Cape Town.
I take the point you're making. I absolutely do. I had to look it up because there was a bit of confusion about whether it was Diane Kohler-Barnard or it was Glynis Breitenbach. In fact, in my mind, it turns out I was correct that it was Diane Kohler-Barnard that was mentioned in that way. Secondly, without being defensive, the point you are making is valid. Please don't hear me wrong. It's absolutely valid, the point you are making about, the fact you're saying that the fact that I had to think about it says a lot to you. I take that. But I'm saying this allegation was one allegation made in the midst of a litany of allegations and revelations in that testimony of General Mkhwanazi. And it seemed to me, at least to me, maybe I was wrong, it seemed to me as if it was being foregrounded and there was still more to come. And I'm still under the impression that at some point, perhaps we will hear a bit more of the detail of how Diane Kohler-Barnard played the role that General Mkhwanazi alleges that she played. I hope you get what I'm saying without taking away from your critique and criticism. That's where we leave it for this morning. Thank you for listening, and thank you for your robust engagement as always. Let's talk again tomorrow. And Musa on standby with the latest news, and immediately after that, KG Mweketsi has got the talking point here on SAFM. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane. You've been briefed.
In our top stories, Chief Mandla Mandela confirms being taken from the Sumud flotilla, and US government shutdown impacts felt across America. Good morning. The grandson of former President Nelson Mandela, Mandla, has released a video saying he has been abducted by the Israeli state. He's part of the global Sumud flotilla